Welcome to the World Series of Board Gaming. My name's Chris George.
And I'm Brian Muller.
And we are here to take a look at the ring final of Dominant Species Marine. Dominant Species Marine, and see who is crowned the 2022 World Series of Board Gaming champion, ring champion of this event. And I'm very excited, especially because I have our resident Dominant Species Marine expert here. I don't think anyone was more excited to see Dominant Species Marine in the tournament. And if you watch our drawing of the final game, the final ring ceremony, you will see Brian Muller chanting, desperately hoping that the final event would be Dominant Species Marine. There was a chance, but it didn't happen. How devastated were you there, Brian?
Oh, that was just too much fun for me, because people all along at the beginning before this event happened talked about what would happen if Dominant Species Marine was the final game, and then it was like, well, surely they'll use their veto on that, and no one did. I'm so excited for this game. I just love this game. I love the original version of this game that Chad Jensen had put out. I think Chad Jensen is a great designer, and I really do want to give a bit of a tribute shout out to Chad Jensen and Kai Jensen. Chad Jensen passed away due to cancer about 2 years ago, 3 years ago today, in November of 2019. And he's just been a great designer, and I am so glad that we could have this game in our first ever World Series of Board Gaming.
Yeah, and Kai finished it. Is that right?
Yes, she did. And I actually got to send an email to her, and she was super happy that we had this game in. We invited her to come down, but she says she only goes to like one convention a year, and she likes to go to a heavy Euro convention. So she likes them heavy war game Euro conventions. So
well, that makes sense looking at the game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm excited for this one here. So,
well, on that note, let's head over to the table, meet our players, and get into the game.
And 3 on the reef.
And we can see the game being set up initially right now by the players. But Brian, there's something a little bit different in how we're managing this tournament play versus a normal game, because in a normal game you would just draw 3 traits and keep 1, but in this we're doing something different. Is that correct?
Yeah, in the World Series of Board Gaming, what we're going to do here is we're going to maybe offset a little of the perceived advantage that the reptiles have, since they break all the ties. And what we're going to do is we're going to let the players pick from 6 different traits on the board, and they'll draft them. And then you have the option of either drafting a trait or drafting the animal that you want to play. And then that will wheel back around so that you can make the other selection. So the person who goes last will get last of the first choices, but then he'll get to pick back to back.
So these are the ones left.
So right now, why don't we go around and introduce the players and who has chosen what.
Camouflage, and
We see Nick Henning just sitting down at the table, getting to make his third choice.
Oh, we're gonna read it, yeah. But my camouflage, I got one species, one you got.
Yes, so I think Michael Sosa picked first, and he took camouflage.
Another element.
And then I believe it is Isaac picked second, and he took the ram feeder. And the ram feeder is an interesting card that it gives you an extra element for the plankton, and so that will give you a good opening to grab a domination fairly early on, get the special action tile, which will give you some flexibility and allows you to play into that early on if you want to. There's a couple different lines of play you can take, though.
Feel free to be chatty. We are filming this one.
Thanks, Josh, for pointing that out.
Shouldn't we reveal this?
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
As we have filmed every other ring final as well, all of which will be found on the World Series of Board Gaming YouTube channel. So check those out if you haven't. There have been some pretty friggin' great games that I've enjoyed watching each and every one.
So I guess we're deciding here on the...
Yeah, Nick, I believe, is in the washroom, and so is surveying the board in the detail that the other players were just before we started rolling the cameras.
Thank you.
or order. Or side. Yeah. Get a little advantage there.
It might be bothering some of
And we've got an upside down board just to really, really alienate all you viewers who have never played Dominant Species Marine before. But don't worry, Brian is our expert and will be walking us through everything. And I'm excited because my experience with Dominant Species Marine is very little. But I think it's a really neat game, and I will be asking a lot of questions so that if you are new to the game as well, you can learn and experience the high-level play and then just blow your friends out of the water when you play it yourself.
So one of the things that's interesting about this version of the game as compared to the original, which is a really great game, is this game plays a little bit faster in that when you place your action pawn, you get to take that action right away, as opposed to having to place all the action pieces out, and that causes a lot of AP for a lot of players. But sometimes it can be enjoyable for some people who like that super heavy AP type games. But you take the action right away, and the downside is they use this waterfall type mechanic that allows you to only place your pawns downstream from the previous pawn that you placed, with the big exception being that you can get these special action pawns that can jump back up to the top. Now, what's also interesting here is one of the trait choices that's on the board is flight, and flight allows you to jump back up to the top of the table and not have to obey that waterfall rule.
I'm going to take him.
I'll take flight.
And just like that, we see, I believe, Ed Rickman taking flight.
Cannibal is when one of my guys dies, I get a point.
Yep.
Consolation prize.
What gets eliminated?
Yep.
I'm going to choose the C.
Right, okay.
So we're going to shuffle around the table here a little bit. The crustaceans always play first, but they have no tiebreakers. It's going to go in food chain order for the tiebreakers, and you can see that the top of the board is upside down for us, but you can see the food chain order at the top of the food chain, which is closest to the bottom of our screen, is the reptile.
Yeah, the bottom right.
And then the
Those
next
four
one
little
is
cubes.
the cephalopods, and then the fish, and finally the crustaceans. So Ed has chosen flight, and he's chosen the crustaceans, so he's going to go first. But he's going to concede tiebreakers here. Let's see who chooses next here and what animal he's going to choose.
So it would be Nick's choice because we're doing a snake draft in terms of choosing traits and others. So Nick will choose where he goes now. And just to circle back, those actions are in the left side of the screen on the board, and so they will be going from top to bottom in our perspective for where you place those action pawns in that waterfall mechanic. So you'll have to start at the bottom of our screen, which is the top of the board, and then it will cascade down or up in our perspective.
I will play fish.
Okay.
Who's going to play the fish?
Nick opting for that second position, getting the cannibal fishes.
So normally, I think normally in a game you're going to prefer the reptiles, but I think what may be happening here that they're preferring the faster acting pieces is maybe they really like some of the domination cards that happen for. They're called domination in the original game. I may be messing up the term here in the Marine.
No, I think they're called domination in this one as well.
So all eliminated species are going to go in the cup, okay?
Yep.
Or evolution cards.
Evolution cards, that's right. The evolution cards, yes. The evolution cards they're pretty heavy ones. You've got Predator out there, which is quite heavy, and Solar Radiation is quite heavy card. And those things can really take animals off the board, and so you have to be cautious in the way you go about expanding your animal count in this game, because they can just get removed from the board really quickly.
Yeah. Just 1 second. They're reading out their abilities. The flying crustaceans, as we talked about flight, we know what they do.
It's Nick, yeah. I'm playing a cannibal fish. Whenever one of my species is eliminated, I gain a VP.
Alright, I got camouflage on the cephalopods. At the end of each Wanderlust or Tectonics action by an opponent, you may put one new species from Eugene Pool into the newly placed tile.
Wow.
Alright, and I have the reptiles with the ram feeder card, which means my animal has an additional default plankton element.
Okay. All right. So, is there anybody who has any questions about any of the game states?
We see our judge for
how
this
many,
game just
what's
happens to
31
be
feet off?
Brian Muller, who is there to see all the action, and that is why he is our resident dominant
I'm gonna
species
ask questions.
expert.
Does anybody object to this setup? Is the setup complete to everybody's satisfaction? If you have any objections, now's your chance to say.
Making sure everything's on the up and up.
Free to play, starting with Edward.
And Brian knows what's going to happen here. He knows every beat and moment, and is going to walk us through it. And I am excited to just be along for the ride and see this cool game that I'm going to be an expert on by the end of this.
So the crustaceans here are jumping out pretty early with speciating. And I think one of the reasons that they can do this is because, and this is something that I believe I didn't remember when the game was playing, but they do have the flight, so he can jump back up on the board. And that's something that I, as a judge, I forgot, but just kept my mouth shut. Fine, so. So he's heavily speciating off of the, looks like he's speciating off of the worms. And so he's getting down there. He's got a lot of pieces on the board fairly early on. So we'll
Yeah,
No, it's good.
that's a lot. And one really interesting thing about dominant species marine that I think is cool is when your species is removed from the board, it doesn't go back into your pool. It goes away. It goes into the box, right? Like, so you only have a certain amount of species to put on the board, and if they get wiped out and you get wiped out early, that's a pretty bad thing to happen to you.
You do have to be careful, and definitely in the original game, you definitely want to enter in very gingerly, because you can definitely lose pieces in this game. And there was only a few cards that will let you get them back from the eliminated state, and I don't see any of them on the board right now. There are a couple, but in Dominant Species Marine, we don't even play with all the evolution cards, so those cards might not even be in the game.
That's true. And so I'm assuming you did the normal game and you took out 10
Yes.
as the setup.
Yes, to prevent it from going 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah, because everybody's playing a little bit slow and cautious already. Everybody's monitoring the game state. They have to not just check their own actions, but they have to check everybody's actions at the table. And so that's going to slow things down just a little bit. So here the fish are jumping into speciation as well too. They don't have the advantage of being able to go back up on the board, so they're going to give away some ability to maybe adapt early. So we'll see how he plays this out. We're definitely filling in. The coral reef is definitely getting filled in right now.
And so, Brian, why don't you talk a little bit about why players might be speciating, how board control is important in this game, and what are the general ways to obtain victory points? Because the flow of the game is everyone's going to put out their action pawns, and then at some point they're gonna take them back. And when they take them back, they'll move over on the turn order track, and then once everyone's taken it back, the kind of play proceeds.
Yes. So the vast majority of the scoring is going to happen at the very end of the game. So you can easily see 100 points being added onto your score or more at the end of the game, because we're going to score every single tile at the end of the game. And that's the one reason that you want to be careful about getting your pieces out too early, because you need to have your pieces out at the end of the game, more importantly than at the beginning of the game. So when I play, I try to pace myself a little bit. So what's happening here? He's going to do some competition he's going for? Wow, that's an early competition. That's an action that doesn't get taken too often, but it might have been migration, I think. Oh no, it's migration. That's right. That's what it was, migration. Okay, so migration
he moved his starting species from the center to down below and to the sort of grasslands on the side.
Yeah, so he's migrating, and I think that's a good thing to do. He may be setting up, looking at a potential predator play because the predator's out there, and if you get on a bunch of different tiles, you can remove some pieces pretty quickly, but you need to be on a bunch of different tiles in order to do that. So he migrated out. He's also looking to get into that land tile, which scores a lot more points as well too. So we'll see how that plays out here. Yeah, so with the scoring, the primary scoring that's going to happen during the course of the game are two things. The Wanderlust action is going to score a lot of points during the course of the game, and the every time you take an evolution action, you're going to choose one tile to score, and you'll score that. And you'll score for everybody who's on that tile will score. Whoever has the most pieces will score the most points, and the least pieces will score the least points. And tiebreakers, again, every time there's a tiebreaker in the game, it's going to go in favor of the reptiles.
And that's why they play last.
Yes. Yes.
And they're the only species who really have that sort of special power to start, other than the crustaceans getting to go first. What do the fishes and the cephalopods have anything?
They're just second and second to last tiebreaker and third and second tiebreaker. So it's just really your trait cards are the only thing that's making a big difference. Okay, we're speciating again, and this is a heavy play with a lot of pieces here. So
that's a double speciate right off the bat from the fishes. And it's kind of hard to see on the board, but it says speciation. It says +1 on vent, +1 on land, +2 on kelp, +2 on grass, +2 on the reef, +3 on the mountain, +3 on sand, +4 on the ocean. And that's the amount that gets to populate in those specific places that you choose.
That's right, yeah. So that's another thing that I think is really neat between this game and the original game is the land tiles are going to score a lot more points. They score like 8 points for the person who has the most land tile, but they don't speciate very well. You only can get one cube on there at a time, which makes it very, very tight to get into that land, which is probably one of the reasons Mike Sosa probably took that action to migrate a second cube up into the land up there. And then you have the oceans, which you can just dump 4 pieces down with every speciation, but it scores much less points, and that's reversed from the original Dynasties, where the ocean both lets you speciate heavily and score heavy points.
Yeah, well, this makes sense. You're all marine life, and you are trying to evolve and get onto land and dominate the entire world, not just the board.
Score land.
Okay.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. I was like, maybe it would make sense for Ed just to come right out of the bat and score land and get a bunch of points.
You don't trigger a card.
Why?
Okay, so
You
this
don't
is an
eat any
interesting.
food here.
Is that true?
This is a bit of a potential misplay here from Mike. So he wanted to grab that
Mike,
population explosion card, but the problem is that the tile that he chose to score, he does not thrive. So he doesn't have the elements that match. So he is allowed to score the tile, but he's not allowed to pick a evolution card off the board. So I think he really, really wanted to grab that population explosion card, which lets you pick a tile and just put a whole dump load of pieces onto the board to match how many's already on there. But he's not going to get that card.
It means it's the only circumstance.
It doesn't penalize you for thriving, obviously.
Well, the other possibility was.
There's a clarification online from the publisher's wife.
There's a few.
Or the game.
I'm
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Kai commented online that the must does not mean you can. It means it's the only circumstance upon which you can claim a card.
It means if you're thriving, you must play a
If you're
card.
thriving, you have to play.
You have to.
Yes.
You are not allowed to if you are not thriving.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, done.
That is correct.
Yep. Card. Thank you very much.
So he did do that. He
Also
really
around
stuck with
this
that
one.
choice
And so
at this level of
that
play.
is gonna be, we said
and
the reef I get 2. The seamount I'll get 3.
But he does score himself 4 points.
And the open ocean,
Yes,
I will
yes, he does.
But that feels like it might be minimal compared to the final scores.
the middle.
Yeah, well, if you get a chance to score 4 points or 8 points, those are still good scoring. You're going to want to constantly ping the points if you can.
One question our viewers at home might be wondering is, when you speciate, how do you decide which tiles you speciate and how many tiles you're allowed to activate?
So the way that works is when you select the action, there's a bunch of different element tiles on the action board, and you pick a vertice with that element on it, and then you can speciate as much as you want up to the tile limit on the three tiles that are touching that element vertice.
And you can see in the top down those little points that are around that starting area. Those are the elements that Brian's referring to, and that's why you've been seeing things move in those sort of triangle patterns, because they've chosen the sun, etc. We have another scoring here. The fishes decide to score.
Yeah, and we got a lot of pieces on the board.
5,
and
10, 13, 17.
It looks like he's going to use population explosion and put almost all his entire pieces out on this in the center of the board. Can you believe this? Already in the game, he's going to get almost every single piece down on the board.
That is incredible. So he's able to grab that population explosion, which was that first card that Mike was trying to get, and now the fishes are completely on the board.
What does it say? Interplay.
Suns go away.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I would be terrified to make this play.
He has so many pieces on the board. If he could get those pieces moved out, he'll be in very, very strong position for the rest of this game. Now, what just happened also is the semi-aquatic card just came out, and it's going to remove the sun tiles from the action portion of the board, not from the board itself, and it's going to create a scoring mechanism to score points based upon how many tiles that you occupy that touch sun tiles.
2 points.
Oh, it's half.
And when you choose to hit that evolution or the competition or however you score those, get these evolution cards, must you take that card in the first slot, which will be in the top right corner of the board for our viewers?
So there's numbers on the evolution slots, and you have to take a card that's in that number or lower. So here, Mike just went here, and there's also a card out here, solar radiation, that's having the scoring on the board, and that's in the 4 slot right now. It's a pretty strong card, but it's a little bit dangerous because you can end up picking up your own pieces. So I think people are a little nervous about that card right now, and so we're going to get half scoring. Now this is interesting. This is very interesting. Mike just picked the Tropic Cascade card. And what he's done is he's removed the elements which Nick needs to survive in the center. So every time a card comes out here, if it flips an extinction, every single piece that Nick has will be off the board for the rest of the game.
Kind of hard to show this.
So he has to survive extinction cards flipping out every time somebody comes out here.
This is an absolutely insane start to this game.
I can do 3, so.
And he survived the first flip. He could have lost all his pieces on that very flip right there. I'm not sure that everybody is recognizing this, but it is a very precarious situation that Nick is finding himself in right now. I'm not sure if he realizes the extent of it or not, but he is in a potential set of problems. And the good migration actions are taken up right now, so he can only get 2 pieces out. He either needs to get elements back on that board quickly. He needs to get another element on his sheet, which he's not going to have an easy ability to do because he's already below that. Or he's got.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, Nick being in blue, he's on the evolution track. He can only take the other evolution action or the domination action or retrieving his pawns because he doesn't have flight.
Exactly. So he's probably going to want to get into the domination action here quickly so he can get an extra special pawn and maybe try and grab an adaptation. But I'm not even sure that. Well, that probably can help him out a bit here. We'll see. The other people are not taking the evolution and putting him at risk, but every time an evolution is taken here, he is at greater and greater risk that an extinction event will happen.
And even though he's taken this cannibal power, which whenever one of your species is eliminated, you gain a victory point. So he's guaranteed to get some points. But if he doesn't have any presence on the board for the entire game, that's going to make things a little bit difficult.
Aw.
This is a
We're not
big
so
risk,
Dave.
big reward play that he's made here.
Wow. Go big or go home, and we're about to see
Well, you get
if it'll be a 3-player game of Dominant Species Marine or if it'll be a 4-player game because of that very risky initial population explosion.
Now they're wanderlusting out a little bit here, so he can get some pieces, not from the center of the board out, but he can get some of his surrounding pieces out to the edge here. So we'll score a little bit here for this is Ed's action here that Ed's taken.
And to clarify for the viewers at home as well, we can see on Nick's board, you see the fishes, the little elements above the fishes. That indicates where he can thrive, right?
Yeah, the elements, he needs those elements in order to survive through extinction and to thrive. So
and he is moving right towards one of those elements to save some of his people.
Yes, there's algae is off the board and the plankton is off the board. So he needs to. Wow, he is in some deep trouble. So he does.
But isn't that algae that was just flipped up?
Into that. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Isn't that algae that's just flipped up? We can see in a sort of the top part. So he's moved some fishes. So some fishes will be able to survive even if there is an extinction.
Yeah, those will survive. I imagine that the players are looking to score. So I believe it looks like the only 2 tiles left to score has to be a sand tile and an ocean tile. So Mike's not down though, so it's going to be hard for Mike to press this play. He's going to need some help from, and the crustaceans chose not to get into that play. Crustaceans are reset their pawns. Interesting. The fish. Okay, so he's going to pick up his pieces here and try and get himself out of the jam either through an adaptation.
Now, I believe the rule is that I cannot draw a card if I don't have any species there. So
Correct.
You need to have a thriving species, so that means you need to have.
That's right.
Mike really
and that
wants
thriving
to
species is the species where you have are touching an element that you are on. That is up on top of your player board. Those little symbols that we have, right?
So Mike's going to pick up here. He's probably looking to expose this weakness very, very quickly here. And so here's the reptiles are going to mark up their sun tile here, get themselves an extra pawn. We have. Now I think Nick might be able to get out of this jam if he sees the jam that he's in. If he goes at.
Well, I'm sure he sees the jam that he's in. He it was a direct response.
Oh my! Nobody is following up on.
Guys are card, I think.
So yeah.
Yep. There was a chance.
So Nick was able to get out by doing an abundance action and placing a plankton back on the top tile back there.
Yeah. And you heard Mike say there was a chance.
There's another play out here. There's another play out here. So the other card that's up at the top, which Mike might be looking at, is the niche construction, which will allow you to move an element from Earth to another location. So he can unravel that play. And he may be looking at that right now, except for he still has the problem of he can't get to the sand tile because he doesn't have any pieces on there.
It just seems it seems like it was a very fun play for Mike to do, but it feels like he should abandon it at this point, because if he just pursues trying to eliminate all the fishes right away, I feel like he's expending energy and letting the other two players make their moves and maneuver around the board in the way that they want to, rather than.
It's a possibility, but I would be if I were the crustaceans, I would be down there scoring that sand tile and seeing what we can flip, because he does have, assuming I'm reading the board correctly.
I will. Sorry, is that mine?
Oh.
Thank you.
Because he has got a good advantage of scoring the stand tile and score by himself. He doesn't score a lot of points. He'll be able to pick one of the, perhaps the predator.
It's only 3 points, right?
And he has the fish ability. He has the flight ability too, which lets him bounce back up. I'm surprised that he must not be reading the board the same way that I am.
Thank you. And
but the thing about flight is that they can be placed above all your other placed pawns, but not in between them. So you still have to. You can't go anywhere on the board. You still have to plan out your actions. Either start low and go high, or start high and go low.
I move first, so I will move 1 there. Would you like to move?
Well, first, it's at the end. Okay. I will not move.
Okay.
Oh,
Second action.
Thank you very much.
So I'm the
So
only one.
for the migration.
Oh, because it's only you and me actually. Okay.
Yes,
I'm
yeah, it's just you and me.
So,
Yep.
so I don't want to move, but I do have the camouflage option. And the
Yes,
question
you can
is,
still do
I
your
want to
camouflage.
use it? Yeah.
Mike now deciding to use his camouflage option, which would allow him to place a species from his gene pool onto the new tile anytime there's a wanderlust, which is sort of this expansion that's happening.
Yeah, I think the danger here though is I don't think he has the doesn't have access to the plankton element, so he's not really thriving on that tile, which is.
That's you.
Remove all elements from the earth that are surrounded by exactly 3 vent tiles. There are no such elements. Perform the regression action. There is nothing in the regression action. Slide all elements in the
So we're going through a
adaptation
reseed
section down
event,
to the
and we're going to go
regression.
through the process of going through the reseed event. And so
Put
this
all
too.
elements in the depletion, speciation, and wireless section back to the bag.
And we're really making sure we're doing it by the numbers so that everyone sees what's happening. Again, with all these games, and I'm sure if you've been playing games at home ever, this has happened to you, where you move something and say, oh wait,
down into the depletion box, then slide all elements in the abundance section down into the holocaust box.
where did that come from? So it's good just to go by step, especially in this tournament play when they are playing for the high stakes. And you'll see what Brian just took off the board there are little tiles that determined where the evolution actions could happen and where the competition could happen. And now we are reseeding the board, which is just refreshing all the elements, drawing elements from the bag, giving different plays.
If I should, by accident, draw one more element than is necessary, I'll throw them both back into the bag and redraw.
Again, Brian being very clear about clarifying. What good judging this judge is, Brian. Do you have anything to say about the judge here? Any personal information?
Josh is sitting at the table with me as well at this game, and he's very good at this, at judging.
That's true. Josh is on the other side of the table, which you cannot see because of the camera, but you may hear his voice at some point.
I'm sorry, the competition spaces first. They will come out in order as they're going.
With a lot of these actions, it's not important the order that they come out in, but the competition tiles are important the order that they come out in.
Evolution space.
Then when the evolution tiles come out, they're going to be sorted in a very particular order.
And that order is listed just below there. The order is land, kelp, reef, mount, grass, sand, ocean, and vent.
Yeah, so what ends up happening, one of the interesting things about it is land always comes out front. So you
Before
can
you
score a lot of
ever
points with the
agree,
land, but you don't have
board
access to the very top level evolution card. You really have to pick from the bottom, which at this
Right,
time is a
you
predator card,
have
which
to
is a
pick
great.
that level 1, which is currently Predator, which is eliminate one opposing species in each tile you occupy. But the one opposing species, again, species just referring to the individual cubes.
Yeah, but if you're spread out a bit, that you can be pulling off 3 or 4 cubes, and also taking that card off the board prevents somebody from hitting you with that card as well too. So,
But it also makes everything slide down and gives everyone else more options of things that'll pop up. And we see the crustaceans, the flying crustaceans.
4 is still the card still out.
2, 3, 4. I will resolve this card here. Score bonus victory points based on the number of tiles that the only animal is present, which is another 4.
Well,
so he's on four tiles, and
4
he's going to do it by the
locations, but they're
bonus thing.
victory points.
Score bonus.
I think he's going to get 10 points here.
It's 10 points.
Your animal is the only. Oh, so it's not
10 points still feels like a lot. What is a what do you expect the scores to be, Brian? I mean, I feel you might remember the scores from being present at the table, but
I don't remember the scores, but you can expect the scores to get up easily into. Somebody could get to 200 points. Is not unreasonable.
Wow.
But scoring 10 points is a good score.
10 points feels like a great pickup there by Ed with the crustaceans.
So he's already out to 17 points. He's got a good scoring pace here.
Yeah, he's really putting the pressure on everyone else. While there's been all that infighting between the fishes and the cephalopods,
yes,
the crustaceans are flying ahead, so to speak.
A little was about to do that. Oh my
The only one.
Yeah.
Well, you
Three
both
of
would
us.
have gotten there.
Two of us. I wanted.
It's all good.
I'm trying to keep the cards for myself as well too. Here we have another card that removed elements. Here came off here.
Well,
Let's see exactly which one that was.
Yeah, I'm keeping mine as well.
I think that's.
We'll see it as it shifts down. It might look like biodiversity to me.
It looks like producers.
Yeah, that's what I said. It looks like producers to me.
Yes. Yeah, because it has that bottom tag, and I think they removed all the algae elements from the action board.
They did, yeah. It's absolutely producers. So because as you can see, that little yellow outline, you can see it now in the semi-aquatic, which is in position 3. Again, in the right side of the board, from the top right is number 1, down to the bottom right is number 5. And like we were talking about, you can choose those cards depending upon where you go in the evolution action. So the crustaceans, having just gone into level 2, they could have chosen something in the 1 spot or the 2 spot, and they chose the 2 spot. But you can see on the semi-aquatic in the 3rd spot, there's a little gold bar underneath, and that just indicates when this card enters play, something happens. So as the cards get flipped over, something happens.
So Michael Sosa just picked up a worm tube worm tile, and that's going to allow him to get down to the southern or top position of the board from where we're sitting here, which is where he may want to be to be able to have more access to picking up the evolution cards that he wants to get to. He doesn't have a lot.
And I realize we've been referring to them as their disc types, but you just may see colors if you're unfamiliar with the game. So algae is the green resource tile. Worms are the pink. Plankton are the blue. Sponges are the green. Gastropods are the sort of grayish. And then suns are the reddish ones that look like suns.
Yep. Sorry, I should have this. My apologies. And I can move first though.
Yeah.
I should move first if I'm going to. I will not.
So the crustaceans do have some very strong position up north, and they're on 2 land tiles all by themselves. And he's probably going to want to take advantage of scoring those tiles whenever he can, because they're big scores. The only problem is the solar radiation has a blue effect on it, so that creates a permanent effect on the board, and so it's having scoring. And nobody's really inclined to take that off the board because it's going to remove not just opposing pieces off the board, it's going to remove other pieces off the board, not permanently, but back to your supply. So,
yeah, that's why when we scored that land, those land tiles being the most lucrative to score, first player usually getting 8 points, first place only got 4 points as well.
So I see here that Ed is really just, he's playing a pace scoring game where he is just going to ping the points, ping the points, ping the points. He's taking a wanderless action, which is points. And he's that is one very strong approach to this game, is just pinging points.
Go first.
Yeah.
So
As Mike said, look at those crabs go, and I agree. The players are going to have to start paying attention to the flying crustaceans.
Yeah, I don't want to die, so I'm going to migrate.
So Mike's a little bit safer down there on that tile.
So many of them.
I think he has the option here to put one more piece out.
He can migrate still.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm not migrating.
Now, migration action is chosen, but everyone gets a chance to migrate. Is that correct, Brian?
That is correct, and they do so in player order. So the reptiles have to commit first whether or not they're going in the tile, and the crustaceans. This is one of the small advantages for the crustaceans, is they can wait and see how many cubes are in there, who wants to overcommit to that tile, or they have to go in. This is one of the, just another little neat elements that I really love about this game, is just these little micro choices that you make throughout the game. And so he's not going in there. He could survive in there. He's not even putting one piece in there, which I think it only scores 3 first, second, and third on the Seamont tile. So he's going to stay on the other tile, which is less occupied, and so he doesn't have to risk that. But we'll see how.
Yeah, the Seamount scoring 5 points for first, 3 for second, 2 for third, and nothing for fourth. And the scoring of these tiles is listed just above them. You can see a brief outline on the tiles, but we'll be announcing what those scores are as we move forward throughout the game and they become relevant.
So fish here are going to look to score on the tile that they're on by themselves.
It says, well as cards in play, all evolution scoring is halved, rounded up. Does that count cards that score points?
All evolution scoring is correct.
Evolution scoring is the tiles.
That should
That would
be the
supposed to be
evolution
that.
action.
That would supposed to be the action. Yeah.
Not.
So is this card
guess
is this card a part of the action, right? That's the question.
Sure.
Oh,
That's a judge question.
interesting. Yeah.
This actually did come up, and I looked it up online, and I could not find an answer. So apparently, no one else had the same confusion that I did.
It's a good question.
I've never thought about it that way.
I would assume that it only refers to the points on the tiles.
It's all under evolution.
So luckily, one of
It's
the
a whole-
judges
it's
happens to have a rule
all
book.
part.
Yeah,
If it was just an evolution
So
scoring,
you're
then
gonna
it's like all.
see if there's any
Right.
answers there.
That's the
I
same
can't
thing
remember
with
how
the
this
new one, too.
one pans out.
Yeah, I would assume. Otherwise, that card is way too detrimental, right? And then you'd also have to retcon that those points that
Can I see the 2 cards in play?
Yeah. It's just
that's the
just
monotype habitat
anything
scored.
that scores points, with the cards.
I think it's got to just be the tiles. That would be my ruling, and I am the resident expert on dominant species marine, especially out of this commentary team. So what I say goes, I think. I'll just take a step. I'll run down to the table right now. As you can see, it's happening live. So I'll just head over and I'll let them know my ruling.
So,
For
for
example,
example,
it says
the
gain
sun
a
card.
VG for every sun that you're touching, right? So in my instance, it scored 2 or 1, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of question.
So this is it's a really good question here, because if scoring the semi-aquatic is part of evolution scoring, then the solar radiation is
I'll
going
read
to
you
affect
the
that.
entry
Yeah.
And I believe that you're incorrect, but I'm not 100%.
I'd love to be incorrect.
This is the card in question, solar radiation. I'm going to read from the bottom of the text of the solar radiation card. The in-playability of this card only affects scoring due to an evolution action, not scoring via any other means, such as the Marine Snow card. So I'm not sure what the Marine Snow card is.
Well,
but
I know what the
it's
Marine Snow card is. The Marine Snow card will score all of the oceans. And that's,
is it a trait card or is it an evolution?
No, it's an evolution card.
Okay, so it's clearly
It doesn't affect
Right.
the
It doesn't affect
card.
evolution cards. That's
so
the correct
evolution
ruling.
scoring is just this score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fine by me. I'll say the Marine Snow example is bad.
So I feel like I
because
got that
it
rule
flips-
right.
When it flips up, it has an event that scores.
But I
So
guess
whether
there's
that's
always
the same thing
an
or
online
separate
source.
from
Maybe
the
I'll just have
actual
to send an
card
email to
is
Kai and make
ambiguous
sure
to
that
me.
I got that.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
it's the worst
Right.
example of any of these they could have chosen
Yeah, you're right.
because it scores
That's
both
fair.
ways. But I actually totally agree with that ruling.
So what's the ruling? It
So
doesn't?
the ruling that I'm going to make, at least for the boundaries of this game, is that the cards are not impacted by evolutions.
Okay.
That is scoring just the tiles. Does everybody agree with that rule?
Yeah.
That seems fine.
I guess-
That seems logical.
Yeah, everybody agreeing around the table.
I'm
That
cool with
I would
that
agree as
until-
well
so
if
I'll
I was
just
at that
hold it.
table. And the fishes take the opportunity to score 2 points instead of 1
My turn.
Oh, no,
by
no.
claiming the semi-aquatic because they love living in the sun.
All right, I'm just gonna protect myself. from this-
Was that biomass that just came out? So biomass is one of the cards that really could have been put a dent into all those fish in the center of the board.
Yeah, biomass
Because
is,
it
I
has
believe, the one that came out.
It has the extinction symbol on the bottom of it, and so had that come up when Mike had made the play, all those fish would have been gone.
All of those fish would have been gone. And the extinction symbol, of course, is a skeleton of a fish. How fitting that it was the fish who were in danger. It's almost like the game knew that this instance would occur.
8 times, actually.
Wow, I'm still reeling from that opening play. That is that is a bananas risky move, and the fact that Mike was almost able to eliminate his competition entirely.
Yeah, he still
Makes
isn't
me
out of the jam that he's in. He still has to figure out how to get those pieces from the center board out to the edges and to the scoring areas of the board.
For sure.
Otherwise, he's not really going to be able to capitalize on having all those pieces out there. And he's got to
That's
do
exactly true. Yeah.
it while maintaining a pace because Ed
that
is
should be-
certainly pushing the scoring, and I think you want to try and have pieces where Ed's at.
Camouflage comes
Yeah,
in.
Yeah,
The
you have to
camouflage,
start
he can, so yeah, before
taking
you're
out
done,
these
he can camouflage
crustaceans.
onto,
Yeah. But
tectonics.
it's a death trap.
You don't have the stuff. Yeah.
I
It's a
wanted
death
to
trap
send-
now.
Yeah, it's a death trap. It's a death trap, and we can look at this card. Yeah. I mean, it's
Dude.
Flight feels.
he's still gonna have it.
Which one was drafted first? I'm trying to remember.
But, you know,
Was
I need some-
camouflage drafted first?
Come in.
Yeah, I think that you took camouflage first, then ram feeders, then flight.
Then ram
and
feeder, then
I
cannibal, then
like
flight.
I like a lot more.
I like
than
flight
ram
as
feeder.
well. That feels like the most strong to me, just because it gives you that maneuverability. But I guess these victory points that Nick might be able to scoop up. I mean, if we assume that, well, he wants to have species on the board to control the lands and to get those area control points, right? You don't want to just wipe out all your species, get 35 points, and call it a day.
Yeah.
you
You
want
don't
to
want
work towards that 200 point level.
Yeah. That is a very strong card in having all those species out, and now if they get nickeled away, you're okay with that. The thing here is though,
Place
Uh,
to eat.
you don't want to lose them all in one action because you only score 1 point each time they're eliminated. So if you lose them all in one action, you just get 1 point for losing a whole bunch. So,
Oh, really? I would
Yeah.
assume it says whenever one of your species is eliminated, you gain 1 victory point. So I would
yeah,
assume
I think
it's.
that's
1, 2,
yeah,
3,
I think it's a
4,
1 or
2.
more situation. I get
Right.
Oh no, wait a second. No, I think you're right. Actually, I think it is.
Yeah, because if it was said 1 or more, then I would assume. Wow, it's mind blowing to me how quickly the crustaceans have shot up on this track.
Yeah, they are definitely pressing the scoring quickly. One of
Now,
my favorite actions in this game is to take the Wanderlust action. The Wanderlust action can allow you to build board. It can allow you to get elements out that you want to get out, and it also scores points. And what's interesting here is, well, right now the cycle scores many points because we're looking at coral. But as soon as someone breaks one more coral
I'm only
out,
1, 2,
that action will be good
so 4.
Shells.
again. So we'll see.
Sorry.
Sorry.
All right, so here they go, grabbing their special action pawns and doing the domination action. That's going to allow them to jump back to the top of or anywhere they want on to the action selection without having to reset their cubes.
And why don't you walk everyone through how the domination action works and why the cephalopods were just able to claim I believe the gastropod extra special marker tile?
Yeah, so each one of the special marker tiles goes with a pawn, and they all start at level 1. And when you take the domination action, what happens is you look for everywhere that you've got a cube on a tile that matches an element on your player board, and then you multiply it by the number of elements that you have on your player board. And then that's how far you push up the domination tile. And then as long as you're pushing the domination tile up, then you get to take the special pawn into your possession. And you can actually take it away from somebody else. So it's really important to pay attention to whatever he's doing, maintain control of that pawn, because you don't want to lose that. It gives you, and the special action pawns also let you take advanced variations of the action. One of which is the wanderless action.
It's an
Take the wanderless action and then take another action after that, which is so incredibly strong.
I mean, I've never seen that either. I've never seen
also, too, what happens with domination is wherever that domination tile is at the end of the game, whoever holds that pawn is going to score points equal to that. So it's very strong way of scoring.
You were trying to end my game.
We'll just pause for a second and we listen to there's chatter around the table.
Kept 31. That would have been it.
I was trying to help you, man. You know, there's ways of getting your guys back. You're fine.
They're talking about Mike was being very open about trying to kill Nick.
Yeah, I just thought for sure you were going to reclaim. I don't know why I thought that. Such a mistake to leave myself open.
If there was a way for me to draw a card, I would have done it. But you're lucky I had no way of drawing an extra card. And it doesn't matter because it didn't come out.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, he does get a lot of points.
Fucking nonsense.
Yeah, so Mike was very aggressively going after trying to create an extinction event for Nick.
Yeah. My arms are shaking. It's because I'm freezing, not because I'm nervous.
So here he's using the special action pawn that he's got. This is a great play for Nick here. So he can move every single piece he has on the board, which lets him get out of any other potential pitfall problems with his pieces. He now gets to spread them out and basically take the pressure of any further danger away from all his pieces getting bounced or all his pieces getting swallowed up by
I didn't want to say anything, but I was hoping you'd take that
events.
opportunity to end that nonsense.
I didn't see it.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I did not see it.
Right here. With that special pawn. I think you were the first one to get a special pawn. And you could have ended that nonsense.
That'd be okay. I'd have them all back. It was the dying part that I didn't.
No. That's fine. You're getting back, but this is bad. Yeah, this is bad.
Well,
This large migration. So they're talking about the tectonic
This
action.
is world domination at the end of the game.
Well, everyone will have 31 by the end of the game, or close to it.
It's a unique strategy. I'm enjoying watching it.
Yeah, so you can also take a tectonic. If you take a special pawn, take tectonic action. You can place a tectonic tile. You can place the tectonic tile and break the rules of the game, placing the tectonic tile, which is what he was talking about. And so when you place a tectonic tile, it's very similar to the glaciation action from the original game, and it will bounce all the pieces that are in that square except for one cube for each person back to their owner's pool. They can still replace them, but what Mike's saying here is having that special tile, he very easily could have bounced everything back that he achieved by that mass that mass population explosion could have been just undone, and then all that work that he done with one snap of a finger, he would have had to do again methodically, like everybody else has to do.
Right. And Mike's saying he didn't want to say anything to Ed. I think he should have. He should have said, "Hey, Krabs, let's get these fishes off the board."
Yes, indeed, I agree with you.
I'm just a sweet little cephalopod here, just hiding in the darkness.
I'm going to ask that when you go to push your pieces into their new hex that you start with the northmost land tile and go clockwise from there to avoid any ambiguity.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a
Do you want me to move
huge
them? I guess I
play.
should have moved them on the lips in these lanes.
No, you're fine. Right there's fine.
6 there.
Just making sure that we push everything out.
Yeah.
7
Yeah,
here.
this is an easy thing to lose track of what you've moved already,
And then if you guys
and especially you really want to think this through because you don't want to be in a place where you're
and if you'll
unwinding
make sure
things.
that all the pieces are centered as best as possible.
Yep, this is going to be my move.
Yep.
Locking it in.
Wonderful.
And then he's moving the things over.
So look at all those pieces he now has on that land tile.
You know, you
Wow.
did the chest in the nick of time.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah, and he's in a
Chest in the
he's
nick
in a
of
good
time.
position
Because
here
I
where
was
he
going to
can
do it. I'm still going to do
Nick
it.
could potentially
But I would
pick the
definitely
solar
do it. That's for
radiation.
sure.
He's got
I
this is
agree.
if you choose back bounces
I'm
back
gonna
if
hurt one of
he
these
picks
positions
solar
here.
radiation.
Yeah.
Okay, I could get some points, but not.
Cephalopods now doing that tectonic action that Mike was talking about.
Kind of sucks
He said
because I
right in the
helped
nick of time. Now the fish have a pretty dominant, no pun intended, position on the board.
So
But again, I think there's this little war of the fishes, and it makes sense that Mike's going to bounce everyone off the land because that land is worth 8 points once that solar radiation gets off the board.
I'll do this. So I just get a point, I believe.
Yep. 1 point for orange.
But I think this mini war between the fishes and the cephalopods is they're neglecting the real enemy here, which is the crustaceans. The flying crabs, again, still so far ahead in points.
Because it was tectonics. I think.
No, I can't use camouflage because it doesn't
other
apply
people's.
to my own. Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't apply. Now I have 2, 3. So do I get the card?
Correct.
So they're passing around a card, the survival card,
Aw.
and so one on the bottom of the card sometimes you'll see the extinction, which is the fish
that was a lot of
bones,
change.
and then sometimes you'll see a full fish on the bottom of the cards. And when that full fish pops
that was
up,
a lot.
you do a survival scoring. And so the way that works is you're going to look at the number of cubes that are on tectonic tiles, either the tectonic geysers or the steam vents down at the bottom of the ocean. And whoever has the most pieces is then going to look how many different tiles they occupy and score bonus points based on that. So right now, Mike has the card to indicate that if it does happen, he would score it. So he's got 2 pieces out. Is that correct? Or 3? He's got 1, 2, 3 pieces out. And the crustaceans only have 2 on the tectonic tiles. But he only occupies 2, so his scoring multiple will be 3. That's all he's looking to score right now. But you can definitely, if you get spread out here, survival points can be quite a large number of points as well too. But it takes a lot of work to make that happen. And it looks like this part of the game they're going to start fighting over that survival card. Especially because not very many survival cards have come out yet. So that means there could be a lot of scoring that can happen off of that. Yep, here he goes. Let's just everything that's points. Ed's going to do everything that gives him points.
Yeah. And he's carving himself out a little space on the board where he can only go, and everyone else is a little further away. He needs to take 2 migration actions to get there.
Yeah.
Except, of course, for the camouflaging cephalopods who just get to jump right in there.
1 point.
Yeah, with the only risk though, I'm not sure their survivability. I need to pull up take a look at the cephalopod starting elements here.
Yeah,
What are this-
cephalopods
what-
start with 2 gastropods and a sponge. 2 gastropods, the gray, and the sponge being the yellow. And I think they've picked up a pink worm, so
Yeah,
they
so-
are not going to survive there if an extinction comes up, because it is only powered by the sun element.
Yes.
You slide your cube over.
He did.
Okay.
All right. I am.
And this is a challenge for Mike's position. Is he just not getting to take advantage of that camouflage tile because he just doesn't have the right
4,
elements
Is it still
Um,
halved?
It's still halved,
to
so
be
I will
on
get-
the
I'll get 4.
the good side of the wanderlust.
2 for Brett.
And we see Isaac now making an evolution action. He will be taking the predator.
And eliminate 1 species.
Yes,
on
that was
every
brutal.
Tile I occupy.
And who is he going to take out?
We're taking out.
We got to start taking out the crabs.
Can you move them to the edge of the
Yes.
floor?
Oh, yes. We talked about that. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, I'll just put them on the edge like I'm moving them. Yep. This one.
Going for the cephalopods, not just targeting crustaceans.
Oh, maybe. And that one. Over here.
The blue gets points.
I know.
Yeah,
It's in my head. Well, yeah, that one will have to go. Over here.
Oh yeah, it's not a May action.
Oh, it's-
I'm gonna do.
So Nick will pick up at least 1 point, but I don't know. Even though Nick gets points, because the points can be so,
It's one of those like
So
I don't know
high.
with it, but I'm gonna
it
do that.
feels like you should still
So
take him out.
I should have went.
You
left
got to
there.
start chipping away at his board presence,
Well, yeah,
and
just so I
then
know which ones I haven't done.
your
Yeah.
later
Yep.
board presence will
one.
then can overwhelm and take the points of scoring.
This one.
You definitely want to do that, particularly in this game, because if you can isolate a halfway decent scoring tile that you're the only person on, then whenever you want to take that
That's all
evolution
tiles
action
out.
into that scoring tile, you can do that without sharing any of the points.
Yeah, that's a really good position for Isaac. We see the stealth predator
I'm gonna
play
get
from the
some.
reptiles,
It's 1, 2, 12.
getting a lot of pieces off the board, eliminating them
was all.
from contention entirely and
Yeah, that was
into
a lot
the
of damage.
extinction
That was
bin
a lot of
that is
damage.
onto
And
the
I
side
think if my
there as
calculator
well.
is right, this is
Yeah,
mine.
and he caught four crustaceans.
Never mind for the first time.
4 crustaceans, 3
Discard
cephalopod, and
display.
2
New
blue
vent tiles
fishes.
may replace seamount tiles. Wow.
Really? New vent tiles may replace.
For the tectonism action, you do not have to be on the outside. Oh, sorry. Thank
As
you.
we look in our
Discard.
mid of hands,
What's that?
mid of cards here.
It just says normally you can only place on the edges.
But now
Unless you
Volcanism.
pick a special one which lets you go anywhere, which is what I did.
For those
But now
playing
with
along at
this
home,
thing,
that's the
even
volcanism
the
card.
regular action lets you go
On
in
scene.
mounts.
And so that it changes the. So normally you can only play tectonic tiles on
Good
the
with the
very
special
edge
one,
of the
right?
map.
Yeah,
and
with the special
there's
one.
all, there, and
I
but
was
very
hoping
edge
you
of the
would
map
hit that
means
huge
even the
point of
edge of the
blue.
map that's not
I
filled
could have
in
done
yet.
something. I could have.
So you can't place tiles there. So now it lets you place tectonic tiles on any of those
Just 'cause I have a lot of
3
guys doesn't
sea
mean I
mount
need that
tiles
right
that are down in the southern region down there. Again,
Yeah, top
the fish
right
put
in
themselves
our
a
in our
place where they can
perspective.
get picked up.
All those guys are a threat, man.
All of everyone. All of every guy.
No, but your guys are so much.
It just looks intimidating.
There's definitely a little banter that goes
I see
back
crab
and
running
forth
away
in this
there.
game. And you definitely do
Crab's
get
got
that
points.
thing
Anytime
of
we
when
put
somebody
things,
feels like they made a
put
big
points,
play in the
put
game that
things.
kind of lingers
sorry,
with
I
you
never
throughout the
actually
game, and you
this.
may feel like they're in the lead when,
Thinking any
Oh,
of that.
stuff. I gotta
even
figure out
though
a
somebody else is
couple
scoring
I'm gonna do
more,
Wanderlust.
you may feel that somebody else is in the lead. And that's the hard part about this game is you really do have to try and figure out who is leading, because you're going to make plays for yourself, but you're also going to nickel away at your opponents, and trying to be able to pick the right opponent to pick apart is very important throughout this game.
You can.
You can.
It's a. I'm pretty sure it's correct.
It's a match.
Because I don't
Yeah, you
have.
may.
Yeah.
And again, those crustaceans picking up those points. I think that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing everyone focusing on Nick's big play at the beginning and ignoring the crustaceans.
And you can migrate.
Oh, no.
Now, my camouflage thing coming to play. It's another death trap. The question is,
Yeah, he's really Mike's not getting very much play off his camouflage card because there are just no elements going out on these wanderlust tiles. The wanderlust tiles are happening for point scoring, but they're big risks. He can put one of his pieces out, but then lose it right away. Looks like he's going to take the chance again here. So now he's got 2 or 3 pieces exposed here to elimination if an extinction event rattles off.
Well, if he can score the reef that only he's in, he gets a solid 6 points.
2 points.
He can, but he won't be able to get the evolution card that goes along with it because he's not thriving.
That's true.
So
the cephalopod's really feeling the heat of not having a sun resource for themselves, where everyone else thrives in the sun right now.
Yeah, and there's a slot section on the board, the adaptation section, where you can pick up more elements to place on your board, but there's no sun tiles on those because the card had come up earlier that removed all the sun elements from the action board. Oh, actually, that was the last one that came up, so there just wasn't any when we refilled the board.
One person everywhere he has people.
He makes one person.
There's a couple in the bundles,
someone once he
though,
puts a guy.
but they're just none on the adaptation. It's just he's not getting the opportunities to select the things that would get him out of the jams that he's in.
So Crustacean's picking up fecundity, where he gets to place 1 new species from his gene pool onto every tile already containing one of your species.
That is a great card.
That's
I love that
pretty
card.
huge, especially with how spread out the flying crabs are right now. I mean, Ed looks to be in a really good position.
No whammies, no whammies.
What does it do?
When this card comes into play, animals lose 1 BP whenever one of their endangered species is eliminated. Oh, this is the time to kill the fishes. Oh, but is it 1 total? Yeah, it's only 1 total.
It's only 1 total.
You will get like
This
1
is
point.
this is the card I was thinking of. That is 1 total.
Species is eliminated.
It's not per
So it is
Disease.
1 per.
Oh, it's 1 per species. Or is it 1 total?
Wait, yeah. Can we?
Yeah, take a look at that.
Away. Oh,
It's per.
Nope, it's 1 each. It's 1 per.
Does it counteract the fish
1 per.
desire for suicidal tendencies?
We're one of their. Everyone?
It's per
Okay.
Oh, wow, it's
Average.
open season on the fish. Oh, no.
It's open season on the fish.
That's the disease. That's the disease card.
Thank you.
Oh. Now this is interesting
Oh,
here.
what a dead
One-
fish.
one dead
Yeah,
fish.
one dead fish.
Thank you.
All
10
right.
points.
That's right, 10 points. Yeah.
22.
Now I can go in there.
So you do score points off making this tectonic
purple,
play here.
You have it.
That's
You
very
got
nice.
4.
He touches.
Go
He
down.
creates a four tile pattern, so that's 10 points. He gets to put his cube out there, bounce back some cubes here. But also another thing that he's doing here. This is a very interesting play here because there's no elements touching that tectonic tile, and there's a rule here about that. See
Well,
the
there's
sun
the
element
sun.
at the board.
And,
That when we get to the
my
reseed
action-
event, that's going to get picked off the board. And so all of those tiles that are players that are playing for the survival are going to be at quite a bit of risk. And so Nick's only exposing
Thank
one
you.
of his cubes, but
Alright,
he's really
I
taking
have
away a
perfect.
lot of points from all of his
So this will
competitors
be a receipt.
by doing that. He's pushing that survival action down to a nominal
You won't
action
mind
instead
if
of
I
a very
continue
strong
Alright.
set of plays.
Right over there, though.
Oh, really?
You walked too far
I have
last time.
literally
I
been doing
seen
that
where
for
you
3
come
days.
out.
Oh, God. Thank you.
I'm going to complete this while you're gone, is that all right?
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Okay, so remove all 3 elements from the earth that are surrounded by exactly 3 ventiles. There is such an element.
This
Yep.
one,
That's exactly what you were talking about. This is part of the reseeding, and that's why it's removed, because it is surrounded by the tectonic tiles.
So anybody who has either of these elements that is not named Mike. So So we have this
Oh yeah,
element
protect myself.
and this element.
Yeah.
They come off your board.
Nobody has it.
So I don't see any.
I think we're safe.
So the regression action can cause you to, if you expanded out and got some more element tiles onto your board, you can lose those as those elements drop down to the aggression action. You can put a cube down in that by taking the aggression action to block against, protect you from all of that from happening against you. And this is another part of the game that really, you have to really pay attention to the entirety of the game, because everything's going to, each one of the unpicked tiles are going to flow down towards the bottom. So if you don't pick up tiles that your elements are in, they're eventually going to drop down in the aggression action, and then you're going to have to take an action to do nothing but protect yourself from not having taken an action earlier in the game.
Yeah, if you refuse to adapt, then you regress.
Exactly. It definitely has that evolution-y feel to it all the way out through the game. So adapt or die, right?
Adapt or die. Dominant species Marine, baby. Do you think we should change that to the World Series 2023 tagline? World Series of Board Gaming 2023. Adapt or die.
that could be the one for the week, you know. Adapt or die.
Initiation in order.
So right now,
Still receding.
I really liked
So you're just warming
the play
Yeah,
by the
the runner was
reptiles
warming
with what they picked. But where is, because we've talked a lot about the Mike and Nick conflict and Ed soaring up the tracks, but how does Isaac look right now to you, Brian, and his board position as the reptiles? He was in a really solid land spot, but those are now covered up with tectonic tiles.
Yeah, I don't think he's got very. Yeah, I think he needs to. He's going to have trouble scoring off of the survival unless he does it really quickly, because he no longer has elements to set those up for a long-term play. He doesn't have very good position throughout the board, but what he may have, where he may be hiding some points away from some people is the special pawns. If he can get into the special pawns, there's still a lot of sun elements on the board. So he can score some hidden points off of those later in the game. And you can hide those points away from the players who aren't paying attention because they don't score until the very end of the game. I'm sure a lot of players here will pay attention to what he's doing there. And he does have that ram feeder card as well, too. So if he can maybe get back into, if it's possible for him to get two more plankton elements on his board, he can maybe try and make a play at some point in the game to steal the special pawn from Nick and get that blue special pawn away from him. He may do that, or he may just use that as the ability to go wherever he wants, get a few more pieces out on the board and spread out. So I think
it's interesting because there's
this card here. He can play into strength later.
Perform an immediate tectonic action.
Does that make sense?
New event tile may be placed.
Yeah. I'm just listening to this, to Ed taking the volcanism action, where he can perform immediate tectonic action. The new vent can be placed on any seamount, regardless of location or lack of adjacent vents. I think we're going to see him choose not to do that and cover up the other land instead. Now, he could have put that down right in the middle seamount on our sort of northeast of the central tile with all those fish, and he could have bounced those fish back, couldn't he, Brian?
He definitely could have. That's the play that I probably would have made, is, keep the fish doing some work throughout the game, especially when you're the person who's got the lead in the game. If you can cause other players to have to keep working to catch up to you, you can really press your lead out.
Sure.
But he wanted to keep scoring here, so he scores off the tectonic tile placement more by placing it here. And
right, because he gets a chain of 5.
Yeah. Well,
and he's just worrying about those points. The flying crabs just keep
I think it's
trucking
a-
along.
it only counts as a chain of 3 because it's in touching piles.
You know what?
But still,
I
that's
think you're
6
due for
points. So you
death
get 6
event.
points off of
I
that.
won't go. You ready?
But
See if
he
you're right.
does.
Do it.
Wow.
He is
They're
trying
gonna
to set
just
up
hit.
a
We haven't
race
seen
for the
either.
survival points as well
I
too.
think
So
that's all I can beat. I didn't sound like I missed it. All right, carry on.
We will score. Kelp.
Kelp.
4.
4 it is.
2 to 6.
Oh, that was me.
Still no one removing
Sorry.
that solar
I was
radiation.
fish last game.
You like
And-
fish?
Yes. Nope.
yeah, I think
yep,
it's
you're right.
got into a
And also
place
the fish is
where
purple, which is always throwing me
it's
off.
going to
Yeah.
sit there
Yep.
for a while.
And then I
That's
can
because
take 1 or 2.
whoever
Don't want to
does
take
it
solar
has to
radiation
bounce
because
a
I
whole
kill
bunch of their
myself, so
own
I take
cubes
this.
back up off the board.
Move an element on Earth to another location.
Yeah, it says on each tile you occupy, return X species to their owner's gene pool, where
I'm
X
trying to
equals
give you
the
points.
slot this card occupies. So you must
Wasn't trying
bounce
to hurt you.
one species back to an owner's gene pool, but they could choose not their own, right?
They can as long as there's somebody else to bounce. So
Right.
the part of the problem is that everybody has a little spread out pocket where they
Yeah.
maybe don't bounce their cubes.
All right. Let's see. Could be either one.
Could be either one.
Ah, here you go. You're locked in.
I did.
10 points.
Thank you.
13 to 23.
All right.
So the reptiles score 10 points
Your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
because a card turned up that had that fish icon on it.
All right.
I think the card that was just turned up is Eco Diversity.
Oh yeah, that's a good card too.
Go there. I'll pick this one. So I get 2 in Kelp Forest, I believe.
Yep. 2 there, 2 in the reef.
Thank you. All right. I am going to take the adaptation action. Claim sun.
We see the reptiles going all in on suns, making sure that they have enough suns to retain control of that special sun tile, sun action marker.
Is that a biomass card in the 4
one
slot? I
must.
can't really see it too well.
I believe that's the biomass. Yeah, we thought it was biomass earlier, but it was actually fecundity,
Okay.
and so now biomass, I believe, has popped up. But we could be wrong again.
10 points. 40 to 50.
that is a very strong tile evolution card as well too that can really affect the board quite a bit, especially at this stage in the game where they start to populate beyond the number of element tiles
Anybody?
on the board. So people have got to be eyeing that card as well too. Although as you can see, there's only 2 spots left.
Yep, you be first. I don't have
And
one.
one of them is scoring looks like a land tile, and there just aren't any land tiles to score on. And the other one
Actually, I won my grade.
looks to be maybe a C mount tile,
Migrate.
and
One over there.
Done?
that is in the 3 slot. So you can't quite get to it just yet, but people are going to pay attention to where that is.
Welcome to the kelp party.
See, we can be friends.
I never came
Okay, it
at
was a
you,
kelp.
bro.
The real enemy is the crab.
I
That's
never
the
came
real
at
enemy.
you. You came at me.
Does it still have?
It's still half.
Still
I'll
half,
score
yeah.
4.
4.
I got
And then
2.
2 here.
Oh wow, look at that. Moving up.
Still half though. Just having that solar radiation
Level
up on the
3.
board
I'm gonna
since
take
the beginning of the
features here.
game,
1, 2, 3 points.
that's been such has had such an impact on
There's
everything.
no luck with games.
We're so due.
Special palms may bump
I know, we get
Special bonds may bump
opposing
special
special
bonds.
palms. Yeah.
special
Alright.
made bumps.
Oh my, this one gets crazy. adaptability. So
Oh, I
now the
gotta
special.
start scoring.
Normally you can't bump someone's tile except for with a special pawn tile, and special pawns cannot bump other special pawns. But now special pawns can bump other special
Come on,
pawns,
man.
and this
You don't need any more
can create a
points.
real
Oh, yeah,
chain
flip
of
it. See what you got.
triggers with the Wanderlust, where everybody's taking the Wanderlust. So they get a Wanderlust, bump the opponent's pawn out of the Wanderlust spot, and then take another action right after that. So having more than one special pawn here can be a good set of chain plays.
But you can only bump opposing special pawns, so you couldn't do it on yourself.
Right, but bumping it means that the person who got bumped off is going to get their pawn back, so they can just tick tack you right back and forth. So.
Well, now we can see the players work together and try to come back against these crabs, which Mike was pointing out.
Then I can place.
This is a good play for Mike.
He's getting his gray snails in there to make sure that he can start to thrive in that coral reef environment. Just deciding where they go. He can place it on any of the 6 points of the tile that he just laid, except obviously the one that currently has a sun on it.
He may look to do an edge here, so that he creates a space for him when it expands out, or he may come back in.
I think he's even though he's no longer endangered in that area because he has the pink worm affinity that he picked up earlier on, he still chooses to reinforce his position there and make sure that his people can't be endangered and that they are thriving. Current scores right now, it looks like cephalopods are trailing at 19. Then we have the reptiles at 23. Fishes have shot up to 33, but still everyone chasing those flying crabs at 50 points right now.
And he's making good position here. The crabs are. They're still getting on lots of good tiles.
I'm gonna take another adaptation.
If he could just strengthen up his position on the tectonic tiles, because by maybe putting an element out, he can be in even stronger position.
And we're seeing right now the reptiles adapted to take some plankton, I believe, and looks like a plankton, and they might be making a move on that plankton special marker against the fish.
Josh, can you take over?
Yeah.
Can I go? Because like if there's no land to score, does it? You can't go there. Is it?
There is no land, and there's no land facing up on the Wanderlust potential. Everyone has covered the land aggressively.
Pink. I got 2 here. Looks like I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So even though he already has
So you don't
the
double
special
count.
pawn
Oh,
here, he's going to
double
peg up that.
So
That
So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 10.
6 to 10.
10, yeah. Done 5 tiles times 2 that he has is 10, and so he's pushing up his endgame scoring there, which is really good when you're running down the bottom side of the board here. And so he's going to get ready to reset his pawn pieces on the next action.
And so he's pushing up the points at the end of the game for that special action marker, correct?
Yes, plus he's protecting it quite a bit because no one can steal that from him if they can't get above 10. So even if he loses position later on the board, he's preventing somebody from sniping that out from underneath him.
And then right now at the end of the game, the pink, the worm action marker would be worth 10 points or more.
Yes, 10 points.
Yep, I do know.
That seems insignificant to the amount of points that the flying crabs have just been snatching up on the regular.
Yeah, well, 10 extra points add to his already large score.
Right,
So notice here that Nick here, he's grabbing that second action pawn here as well too.
Oh,
He's getting a little threat from Isaac, threatening his blue pieces. his blue pawn, but if he gets to a second pawn here, he's in good shape. Even though he's only taking it for three points, but getting that second action lets him keep cycling actions more and not having to take a pass action.
Yeah, which becomes more and more important as the game progresses.
So is that C-mount thing around here?
That got claimed.
No, it's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
That got claimed. Yeah.
So he's still looking at some fish hate. The animosity between the cephalopods and the fish goes way back.
Oh.
Outside
Oh,
borders.
I can't go there. It's not special. Am I still allowed to take that back? Right?
We had discussed this before.
Beforehand, I think technically what we said was that if you've announced you're taking
Oh,
tectonics,
yeah.
you have
All
to do
right,
it.
all right.
So he has to pick a tile on the edge. So he either has to choose one of the southern ocean tiles, or he's got to choose that coral reef tile.
2.
You know,
I say drop it right on the reef.
I
He's
would
only got
too.
2 there.
It's easy. It's an easier place to protect as well too. He is taking away some of his own
Oh,
scoring,
oh.
but
No, it has to.
I think
Oh,
it's
the
a,
coral.
there are
an
two.
okay
Anywhere in
place
the
since it's
corner.
Oh,
committed
it's
to it.
The edge.
Three, yeah. I think if it's in the middle, you get to choose which one it is. I don't even know if it matters, to be honest. If it's here, you don't have. You
So
get to
my
choose.
legal plays. This is C.
Is right here.
That's here, here, here.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
through the
that's it.
middle.
Hold on, see the.
So he can't play it in the middle.
He cannot play it in the middle
Is that the rule? It's north-south, essentially.
because he doesn't have a special pawn, so he has to choose a map edge.
Anything above the line has to be.
Oh yeah.
The only ones you get to choose are the
Boss.
I got you.
So my legal options are here, here, or here.
Mike feeling the
these
pressure of
two are
wanting
not
to take it
edges.
back, but being unable to because he announced his turn and saw a reaction from players.
So if I nuke myself here, I'll have 2.
Exactly.
1, 2,
Exactly.
3, 4.
Yes,
which I think would
the
tie
poker
with you.
mechanic of stringing a bet. You can't string a bet here. You can't
You have
pick
4
up a
or is it
thing,
1, 2? Oh, 1, 2, 3.
suggest that you're going to make a play, look for a reaction from the players, and then change your mind.
Yeah, sorry.
It's coming.
It doesn't exist. We shuffled them all out.
The 10 of them
one
all
from-
got
all
discarded.
got out.
There
Yeah.
are no extinction events this game.
So now this becomes neutral, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that should be neutral.
The players talking about the breakdown of the deck, and that's I like that element of Dominant Species Marine.
Oh, I get a
Scores
point.
1.
I get 1 point. Yeah.
Right.
I'll just stick into an action.
Yep. How am I good to start?
I love the setup because you don't know those
my special.
evolution cards, which all the players know exist, and which ones they're hoping to come out.
Dan, could you take
But,
that one and replace it?
The only one that you're sure about is the asteroid at the end of the game,
Yeah.
I have to reach.
and that one will definitely impact the game.
Slide over.
And we see the reptiles again making that plankton play, like Brian predicted, almost as if he's seen the future.
Well, he has when he took that ram feeder card, he was probably thinking about that play at
For
the
sure.
very
Yeah.
beginning of the game. And it's just interesting that he puts pressure on the fish here, who are still, they got a lot of pieces on the board. They got good, fairly decent.
And they've been shooting up in terms of
Yeah,
points.
yeah, definitely starting to get the separation away from the reptiles and the cephalopods.
So I guess this
Now,
is
Brian, talk a little bit about those the 10-point swings that people have been getting when cards have been flipped over. It's the opposite of the extinction event. Is what event?
The survival event. So right
Yes.
now, no one has the most. That's why the survival card is in the middle of the board, just between the Cretaceous and reptile.
Yeah.
No one has that card. But if someone can get that card, they can score 10. They can score 15 or 21 points if they have got enough different tectonic tiles that they're on. If Mike can get a hold of the lead, he's on 3 tectonic tiles right now, so it's 6 points. If he got on a 4th one, he would be scoring 10. But he has to have the most cubes on that, and it's strong, but it's super risky on this board because there are just no elements surrounding any of those 4 northmost tectonic tiles. So
if that extinction event is drawn instead of the survival event, then everyone on those tectonic tiles, at least the bottom 4, will be wiped wiped off the face of the earth.
Yes, they will. And I think the thing that's probably even more detrimental to that line of play is that there's 3 distinct people who are playing for that position. You definitely have the Ed with his crustacean. He's got play into those tiles, and the reptiles have play into those tiles as well too.
Yeah. The fish is not really committing.
Right.
The fish is preferring to do their own stuff in the other side of the board.
I think it's benefits Nick quite a bit there. That when 3 people are going for the survival and one person isn't, that one person who isn't could really be in advantage of not having to worry about fighting for that element. He can just get to doing what he needs to do.
And we see him expanding into another sea kelp, another kelp forest, which are the second most valuable tiles out there, because they'll score you 7 if you are in the lead on them.
Yes, and it's a 3-point play here as well too.
Score 3 points.
And he's putting out a plankton tile, so he's once again, the camouflaging cephalopods here don't really get to take.
Migrate to the death trap.
And so how does he score 3 points here, Brian?
So it's 3 points because there's 2 kelp tiles touching each other, and so on the bonus track he's going to get 3 points there.
And that's why you see all these tiles and like-minded tiles, so to speak, connecting with each other. You are more inclined, in fact, it rarely would make sense to place a tile that's not touching an existing tile, because you'll get less points for placing it.
Thank you.
Yes, and that is the difference between the original game and this version, is that in the original game you get points no matter how many tiles there were, what type of tiles they were. It was just the amount of tiles that were touching. But here they have to be the same terrain type. So it does make the game a little bit more interesting in that you look to create patterns here, and the board is a little bit more uniform.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's teamwork.
Especially with these players are playing it
Like I
out.
said, I'm not coming at you. You're coming at me.
The sand, though, has been isolated. So that wanderlust tile for the same will sit out there.
I don't know if I want to do this.
I love this ongoing frenemy between the cephalopod and the fishes.
Second turn, reclaim.
And for those of you who are wondering where the scores are, that's in our top right, below where the markers are to be claimed. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 upside down, and that indicates the number of points that you'll get for those connections.
And kill it because it's 1. It'll be 1.
It'll be 1, yeah.
On each tile you occupy.
It wouldn't be a horrible play for Mike to take that solar radiation right now, but he would lose his presence.
Before the card triggers, right?
Correct.
Right. So I couldn't deny my friend the fish any points by using the card. Not that I would ever do that.
My friend the fish.
Oh.
Again.
I know. I know. You're such a likable crab, you know.
I'm also about to get my pawn stolen.
Yeah, all right.
I think I'm in good shape over here.
Mick downplaying the threat level of the fish having everything on the board.
No,
But if we look, I mean, everyone's expanded pretty well now. The crabs have a pretty dominant presence on the board as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a score. I agree.
They do, and they are the places that they are. They're got a higher count of cubes.
All right, I think I will
So
score.
that's really good. If the game ends right now, they do pretty well scoring off the central coral tile
Elimination.
Yeah.
and the outside
Right.
coral tile.
I didn't kill 3 guys. No, I think I will add myself to this.
So he definitely wants to score here. He's just not sure which way he wants to go about his scoring. And he definitely does need to start scoring because you don't want to be on the bottom track for too long.
He's trailing behind, but there can be those big point swings if you Wanderlust having some nice point swings as well. The obvious next kelp touching the tectonics would score someone 6 points. Although 6 doesn't feel like enough to currently catch those flying crabs who have been just dominating the score track this entire game. This game making me realize how often I use the word dominating as I catch myself wanting to say,
So we score
I'm
first.
not making a pun.
Bro.
So reef, which reef?
I know, but Reef lets me get this card.
Yes, sir. Whatever.
Which
Come on, I'm just trying to be reasonable. You're right. But it's halved. So it's
Doing this one
basically
here.
between getting 3 points and getting. I agree. It helps our friend the crabs.
Just trying
So-
to.
So I get 3 points.
3
sir.
points. 1, 2, 3.
You get further into. The,
It's
you get
nice.
two.
The cephalopods have such a lovely, friendly
I'll make up-
relationship with
I'll make up
everyone.
for this, I
Our
promise.
friend the crabs, our friend the fishes.
So
friendly
I'll get every
reptiles.
diversity, right? So
I like-
get
I like
1, 2,
watching Mike
3,
at this
4,
table.
5, 6,
Mike seems
7,
like a very
8
fun
points.
guy to play with,
He
and it's a
really
fun
is.
and brings a fun atmosphere
Now let's see
to
whether we
a
have
final
one.
table.
That's-
His band
Will it be
back.
extinction?
Come on, game.
Surviving.
Trash that.
Alright,
Wow.
so that makes my decision tougher.
Still no extinction being drawn. It kind of does feel like the extinction events have been just all taken out of the deck.
It's quite possible that is the case. So they got the Echo Diversity came out. Which one flipped up there? Is that? It looks like it might be Bountiful Habitat. That's it. So we're getting more of the scoring tiles. The scoring evolution cards are coming out, which is also very interesting. So it's once again, it's just really going to favor Ed here. Is just pinging points. Let's see if we have.
Yeah, Ed's been doing a really great job in just scooping up points and expanding his board position in a way that hasn't left him exposed to many attacks from anyone. Also maintaining a dominant control of the worm marker, the pink marker as well.
Yes, and here we go. Here's the bounce back. We knew this play was coming with the plankton piece, and he did pretty good job here. He's got 15 points on that thing, so he's going to want to retain control of this pawn because it's just going to be 15 points at the end of the game. So he's going to stash away a few points, and his score's actually a lot higher now than it looks. Right?
Yeah.
So his scoring marker's at 23, but he's got 15 off of that, and then he's got another 10 off the sun top. So even though his point marker's in the back, he's really not as far back as he looks.
Anybody?
Yeah, the reptiles, Isaac and the reptiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that plankton feels almost irretrievable from the fishes at this point.
Nope, not for me.
Just with the number of plankton that's on the board. I think there's so much to keep track of on this board with all the elements that are popping up. How you manipulate those elements. Are you going to go for the scoring of those bonus markers?
Yeah, same. I'm going to choose a lower. All right. Does that complete the first?
Hold on a second. So you still have 4, right? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, we're still 4 and 4.
He's
Yeah,
thinking about
that should
camouflage.
complete your first one.
You can camouflage.
Yeah.
All right. Second action.
That camouflage being drafted first has not yielded, I think, what Mike wanted it to.
Go with this one
My goodness.
Doing another Wanderlust,
and score another.
6 for Brown.
getting another 6 points.
This one
I think we
here.
need some collaboration here.
This
We're
one
gonna
here.
get lapped.
I've been trying.
We're gonna get lapped.
I've been trying.
Yeah, we gotta.
You're fucking coming at me. You're not scoring enough points.
No,
I'm trying.
I'm in a collaboration mode now. This is
Yeah,
lovely.
they're at 64 points.
Migrate.
He's almost double the fish at 36.
To the news.
The
you
crabs-
Um,
The crabs
found-
are almost
crab
beating
life.
2 people together if you add the crustaceans
camouflage?
and
Camouflage. This is a very
if you add the
fun-
cephalopods and the fish together, it's almost 64 points. It's 67 points held by second and third position and 64 points held by first position. Ed is just running away with this game right now.
Do fish eat crabs?
Fish eat crabs.
No, I think there's like a grouper who just like grab the crab and just like crunch it up. Those big ones.
Mike,
I'm not giving you any hints.
getting his fish species knowledge on the table, just musing, just hypothetically, if there were some fish out there that would chomp down on some crabs, but I think that's what the fish have been trying to do, or at least that's what Nick says he's been trying to do.
Well, I do think that the shift will start to go into full force to go after to pay attention to where the crabs are on the board and to. But the thing is though with this game though is when you get to a place where you're going to score yourself, and if you have to bring the crabs along with you in order to score yourself, you'll still do that. And that's the nice thing about this is actually how the crabs really want to play. Since the crabs don't break any tiebreakers, they really, in addition to pinging the scoring, they want to be where everybody is. So every time everybody scores, you just want a little piece of it.
Yeah.
Give me a little piece of your scoring every single time.
That's exactly it, right?
They got really good position to do that. They're on quite a bit of the tiles where people want to score. The only thing that they're really not in is there's a couple of good kelp spots not to score.
Yeah, and those kelp spots are very valuable, right? The seamount scores 5 points where they're sort of in the lead, but the kelp scoring 7 is pretty significant. But you get 4 if you're second place in there, and 2 if you're third.
If he could find a way to get onto those other 2 kelp tiles,
especially from that central position.
Yeah, he'll be.
Although the reef does score 6, so it's only an increase of 1 point. It may not be worth using a migration action to do that.
Well, and he's good on all the reef tiles. It just really matters what tiles are going to flip over on that evolution track, and what tiles are going to be the ones that the board wants you to score.
Well, that sucks.
After a long deliberation, the results are, well, that sucks.
It's lame, but it gives me options, I guess. I'm gonna make some babies. Not that I need babies. We're gonna make them.
Fish is getting out on the board with some speciation, which we haven't seen them need to take in a very long time.
Break here.
So he could take the ocean tile here off of this. Looks like he's no, he's speciating. Okay, gotcha.
He is speciating, yeah.
Wanderlust.
Yeah, the ocean tile is currently a 6-point scoring. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw our crabs want to do that.
Okay. I am going to speciate on that sun. So that will give me 2 per reef. And 3 on sand.
Yeah, I think he's looking here not just to get on these tiles also, but he's looking for his last play of the sequence to be able to once again go through the domination and peg up
those suns.
So
yeah,
very good score here for his sons.
Yeah, and really ramp up his sun score as well with those hidden points, like you were saying. There's one marker that has yet to be dominated though, and that's the sponges, and that's because there aren't any sponges on the board.
Right.
It doesn't look like it.
That is one of the things that can happen in this game. Is you can just one whole element can just disappear from the board,
and then
you'll be glad that you aren't the one in that.
And that's also a detriment to the reptiles and the cephalopods who start with a sponge on their player sheet. Ed deciding, looking, I think, at biomass, or maybe not. No, he's holding up the disease? No. Oh, the adaptability. I think he's holding the adaptability in his hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll play this. Eliminate X opposing species anywhere on Earth where X equals the slot this card occupies 3, then replace them.
It's prolificate carnivore.
One.
That was it. That was what we thought was biomass. Was not biomass.
So
will
I
never
have
see the
2
light of day.
identical, so I
Brian.
can remove 3 and replace with 2. Alright. I'm going to get rid of this one.
Oh, wait,
So
wait.
this
You
is
got to
pretty
occupy,
strong.
right?
Can
Oh,
you?
Oh, no, anywhere. Oh, it doesn't have to.
Anywhere.
It doesn't
And can
have to.
you do
Just
one that
move,
you
move
can't
him to the
replace?
side.
Yeah, he can replace 3 with his own.
There.
You do the first half.
Yeah.
Do the second half.
And then
Which is a great way to get the crustaceans even further in the lead.
Yes, and he's going after the reptiles. And again, this is very annoying to the reptiles because he was looking to set up that sun play and he's just crushing that sun play. I like this play
Yeah.
a lot.
I think
Very strong play for
Ed is very aware of everything that's going on in the game and
we'll get rid of those.
is making sure.
We lose points, right?
One.
There's
It's
ongoing.
for the disease.
that doesn't
Oh,
happen.
sure.
Yeah, we lose. Is that card elimination?
Yeah, it's eliminate.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we lose
so we will
points.
lose a point for each one.
So I lose 1. If you're done.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna
So I
do.
lose 1.
You lose 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So these are gonna go.
And you have to put yours in those
Oh
places.
yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
which
put,
2 are you gonna do?
I'm gonna put them right over here
Okay.
and remove those 2.
So he has 2 pieces left, but he still gets to get rid of 3.
All right.
I'm probably
Wow.
gonna caught
Good.
1
Just
fish
gotta
here
move
just
them
because
and
you get the
maybe
chance to
it'll
get a
happen.
fish at an even trade.
Dude,
But
it's
he's,
way.
we
he's
discarded them all.
Wow.
He was really targeting.
Snails will go away.
Snails will go away.
Snails.
Snails.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Did I miss any? No. Okay. Proceed.
The univalves, when it enters play, all gastropod elements,
Survival event 2.
remove them from the action display.
A lot coming up there.
This is incredible that an extinction hasn't happened yet. I'm going to count through the remainder of the deck and see how many extinction events are left.
I just gotta make some points, I guess. Put it here.
5, 6 are left. And that's also how we know biomass wasn't drawn, because biomass does have an
There,
extinction
10 for me.
symbol on it.
Right.
We're all tied up at 4.
So it's very possible out of the 10 cards removed,
Change.
it could be all of those 6. There could be no extinctions.
You're 4.
Amazing, isn't it?
4. 5.
I'm kind of rooting for that. I think it would be the funniest thing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It will.
And we see the cephalopods get that survival card now. Which, if they can capitalize on it. But there are fewer and fewer of the survival symbols left in the deck as well. Oh no, it seems like 5. 5 including the asteroid.
I think one of the ones that hasn't come up yet is Mass Exodus, and that is like one of my favorite brutal cards to be able to move people's pieces wherever you want to move them to. That evolution card caused quite a bit of havoc. But I don't believe we've seen that one come up yet.
Are you surprised we haven't seen another Wanderlust action happen from the crustaceans at this point, with that sea that's out there,
Yeah.
the ocean tile, or whatever it's called?
So yeah, he's put himself in a position where he really can't. Well, maybe he can get to it still.
There's one open spot. Oh, but it's to the left of his It's to the left of his pawn, but he could, with his flight ability, be able to trigger that. Because it's technically above everything else, right?
I believe that's correct.
Wow.
So he could just scoop up another 6 points, and that would go well with Ed's current game plan of just getting as many points as possible.
Yeah,
Because when the board's full, that action becomes useless, and I think there's only one real use of that Wanderlust action left to scoop up 6 points. Otherwise, might as well never play it again, unless a sea mount is
control
pulled.
that one land tile, and put that one land tile in a spot that's really, really good for you. So
Yeah, and then just get 8 points on it.
yeah, so like if he were to take that land tile and put it down where he has all those brown pieces off of the sea mount and then be able to move those into the land tile, then he creates himself a little niche pocket where he's just scoring a bunch more endgame points.
Well, yeah, and in order to score it, he's going to have to take the solar radiation off the board as well.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to what Mike's thinking about here. So Mike's got to make a good play here, but this is where he's putting his first pawn on the board. So if he goes too far down the board, then he's not going to be able to do everything that he wants to do. The reptiles are going to end the round here really quickly, right? So the reptiles are going to get us into a reseed event here. So where do you want to be going into that reseed event?
We can see the reseed event would have been triggered in the turn order track located on our bottom right. We can see that there are 3 cubes moved forward. That means only the reptiles haven't pulled their plays back, and we can assume the reptiles will, because
Can we still bump?
It's got a domination that he can do here. He can dominate the sun tile here.
yeah, but that
And then he's
move
pulling
was
out that.
eliminated by Ed.
Let's see here. What is his count on it? 1, 2.
He would still get 3 times 3, so he'd get 9, 10.
I think he's
12,
on 1, 2,
15.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's only at 5, so 15. He might still do it, or he
He might still do it for
it.
15. 15 feels significant. You can lock it in with
I
the
would
flanks
ask that you
in.
make a decision soon, though.
But he knows.
But
he's
I don't
gonna
know
have
if
to- He might also just pass because he knows he's got to do it again later. He's got to get back up to them other sun tiles to get the full points out of it. That's swing it. So that would be
Exactly,
an
and-
interesting decision.
And nobody, I assume he's going to pass because no one's in competition with the sun for him.
All right.
We see the cephalopods now trying to make a play for that pink marker, and I think that's the right call. You need to deny the flying crab some points.
Yep.
And
so for
he
the
definitely
sun,
needs to keep it out
1,
of
2, 3, 4,
the
5,
depletion
6,
box as well too. That's the danger of him setting on that reseed event right away. So he doesn't want it dropping down into the regression box because then he's got extra work to do just to protect that one element.
And Isaac does end up doing the domination aspect, moving the sun up to 15, which that is a bit surprising to me. Why he would do that now, I don't see anyone who could have taken that from him. Although I guess if he's worried if a reseed were to happen, I don't know. Or he assumes he won't get in on that seagrass meadow because it's not really worth that many points anyway. It's only 4 and 2. So the amount of effort it would take for him to get over in that seagrass meadow to just bump up his numbers would be fairly significant.
Alright, I think I'm gonna probably do this, which is a bummer, but I'm gonna score sand. Purple's gonna get 2. Orange is gonna get 1. But I'm thinking about this one right here. I'm thinking, choose one of the 8 terrain type scores.
I think it's bountiful habitat, right?
This is the bountiful habitat, correct? Choose one of the 8 terrain types, score each tile of that type.
Coral.
And he chooses coral where he has a dominant position.
So here,
Here, purple's gonna get 3.
Yep.
still in that half because solar radiation has not left the game.
Purple get 2.
It's been in play all game.
Purple gets 2.
You got it. Yep, you got it. Orange gets 1 still.
And then this one.
And then orange,
Orange
gets
still
1.
gets 1. Yep.
Okay, orange gets 1, and then in the middle here,
3.
I'll get second place.
Yeah, so 3 here. 1, 2, 3.
I get
2
2.
there.
Yep.
1 here.
1 there. All right.
I don't know if that was the best play for
See if we can
For the
blow some
crabs.
stuff up.
Well, I still like
waiting
that
on it.
play,
Oh,
and
come on.
the reason I like the play is
Oh,
because
so
someone's going to pull
unbelievable.
that piece off,
So what's that?
and so he at least gets to control
Means he gets
who's
to
getting the most
score
points out of
on
that
4
card. And
tiles.
I think he did pretty well on that card altogether.
Where's
He gave up a couple points off of the sand tile,
All right, I
This
think.
card.
but I think it was just a little bit too tempting going into the reseed event to
Did
just
you-
leave
did we
it
get
there
the
for
point?
whoever wanted it to
Alright.
take it.
That's it.
So what do we have now here? Are we finally
we
getting
have
our
we have a
biomass?
survival event. Mike was able to score 10 points
Survival event.
because of this survival event.
Is it fertile that we're looking at here?
To be determined. Looks like it could be fertile.
Yeah, that's another
Could
good
be terrestrial.
another
No,
good
not
scoring
terrestrial.
card.
Cards left in the deck.
Is that
10.
public information?
Yes.
Okay. We debated it in our last game.
So now we're gonna do some prognostication about how long it's gonna take for an asteroid to come out and change the world. And I think Ed likes to pick up the pace of the game here right now. Anyway, he's
Yeah, Ed
probably in
Ed
a
would want the game to end.
good position here. He's got some good seagrass position.
Although it just feels like that move gave his competitors a few more points than it gave him. Because everyone was able to score, well, only 3 reefs were scored, and he scored second, and first in them. So a decent amount of points.
It's really funny
We
that the
move.
solar radiation tile has been on the board for the entirety of the game. Oh, here we go. This is a big play. You're gonna get to move a lot of his pieces.
Yep, shifting into that end game state, trying to control things. We have not seen an extinction level event in a long time. The species, the marine life on this planet, also known as our planet Earth, have been really thriving without any risk to themselves whatsoever. They've been cowering in fear, but they somehow just have been managing to live long and happy lives. And I think that's just a wonderful game to watch.
So Nick here is going to exert his tiebreaker advantage over the crustaceans here. I really like the way he's looking at the board here and saying,
Yeah.
if I can just get on those 2 sun tiles here. And then that's just going to be some free points at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And he's
Again, those
looking- he really
tiebreakers
is
decided.
looking At every
Nice
place he
species.
can get an advantage on the crustaceans. He's really going into endgame mode here, saying, I need to beat the crustaceans. I don't need
Yeah.
to beat anybody else right now. I need to beat the crustaceans.
And that's also the only player he can beat in ties. So it's lucky that it's worked out this way. Well, that's interesting too about the crustaceans and why the crustaceans have to pick up all those points as quickly as they can, because they know they're not going to win those tiebreakers. They know their board presence is going to be the least significant, and that's why the reptiles, that's why you might want to be the reptiles, because you don't need to have as much presence around in order to just chomp down on the lesser species.
Yeah, I think the reptiles are struggling quite a bit though, because they have a little too many pieces committed to the tectonic tiles, and then their pieces are too clumped up to really get advantage of. They're not winning any tiebreakers anyplace.
That's
They're
true.
just-
And the tectonic tiles, especially because right now it's Mike who has the survival card, instead of Isaac.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take it?
The seagrass meadow.
Just
And now Nick has really shown that he wants no more part of these risky tectonic tiles. He wants off of them.
Yep, and it's starting to transition to those endgame points. Nick's also put himself into a really nice position to potentially pull that solar radiation off the board, because not only he's got those two up top that he may not want to be in. He would lose presence there. But other than that, he could eliminate the crustaceans from those meadows on the right, the seagrass meadows.
The thing about the solar radiation is it's not elimination. It actually is bouncing back. So he may not be inclined to do that because every single crustacean piece is on the board right now. And so now he really, truly can just say, hey, I can go wherever you're at, match you piece for piece, and stay on top of you and just limit the scoring that you're going to be pinging for the rest of this game. I'm going to be the better part of that.
And just chase the crustaceans around the board and try to make up those points, because the fishes are in second with 49 points to the flying crab 74. That's still a long way to go. It's a lot of points to make up.
So
Reefs 2.
So
Meadows
the cephalopods are going to get some more of their species out on the board. They've held back on speciating quite a bit. So
yeah, especially holding back the species in order to camouflage in, but that has helped them establish those little presences. And Mike's gamble did pay off in that left side, because that's what helped him get that survival tile.
I'm gonna dominate that forlorn sponge for
And we see the sponge finally get into play.
yeah, he's delaying this. So that may be the reason when we talk about him delaying the reseed event. So maybe he was delaying it as long as he can and get the special tile out. Maybe get probably what he'll probably do is he'll probably take on his next turn. He'll probably take a Wanderlust and then pass, which is a good combination. So you don't lose any tempo at all going into your pass.
True, yeah.
So,
That feels like a really nice move, yeah.
So which of those tiles he's going to do? These are all slow actions. I mean, he's taking actions here, not losing action tempo, but he is not taking very strong actions. But what he'll do with the Wanderlust, though, that will be interesting. So whether he tries to make a play for the land.
I just don't see a place where he puts land that would benefit the reptiles.
Yeah, that is the struggle. He doesn't really have edge element tiles that can really help him. I guess he's got that one element right off of that coral reef. There's a plankton tile off there that he could play off of.
In the bottom left.
Yeah, just above that tectonic tile that Mike's on.
Yeah, or below in our perspective.
Yeah, or below. Yeah. So we're going to go for the Univals. Scoring for Nick. Take whatever points he can get and just start chasing down the leader. What do we have here?
The gods were smiling on the guy last. I was last place. Yeah.
We got another survival. I believe this one might be omnivore.
Okay, yeah. Now
which is select a tile that your animal occupies, remove one element from that tile, and eliminate one species on that tile.
That is a good one as well.
And that another survival coming in clutch for the cephalopods, having just scooped up 20 points in the last two reveals, showing how key holding onto that survival card is. They're closing the gap on the flying crabs. The reptiles still in behind, but having those three bonus time action markers really puts him at 61 and in second.
Yeah, so all three of the players are at the top there, are definitely in the game still. I think if the reptiles can get a little bit better floor position here, they could be in the game as well too, because they have those hidden points. Here comes that Wanderlust action.
And a smart Wanderlust to scoop up those 6 points. Isaac the Reptiles has got to be sad to see that. He can get a kelp, but because it's covered by that survival tile, he'd only be able to score the 3 points instead of the 6.
Okay, so my turn. And I am going to speciate.
And he's not. He needs to get more people on the board, so he's got to speciate. Instead of do that double action play that we were talking about.
He's considering it though.
The benefit of using his bonus tile to speciate is that he can choose any element and just speciate off of that.
Yeah.
So he could get a lot of things out on the board if he needed to. If he needed to throw himself into the ocean, he could.
Yeah, I think he would probably, if he did that, he'd want to probably come pretty strong up into that sun tile and get on the seagrass area. That's where I would be looking, because he needs to score off that sun tile. Those are pretty good presents.
Do it on.
And he's bumping.
But he bumped instead. He bumped the fishes.
So kelp forest. We'll get 2. The coral reef. We'll get 2. Did I lose one?
Okay, he couldn't get onto that special action because there was already another special.
Oh, I see.
I don't think I did.
But he could bump because adaptability is still in play.
Adaptability was out there.
Yeah.
He could have bumped the special pawn, but interesting.
But he probably didn't want to give that special pawn action back.
That's quite possible. If that's where he really wanted to go. So what he's doing here is he's committing again to fighting for that survival thing, and all he's doing is taking it away at this point. He hasn't outright won it, but he's taking it away.
Especially, it seems a little less significant since
I really think that maybe there was a better play there.
We see a defensive Wanderlust, I think.
Migrate.
No.
Yeah, quite a bit defensively. Oh, I don't like that placement though. He's placing it down where his pieces are. There's no element to go on that. He really can't. Oh, he's going to get one on there. What's his plan?
He's tempting the extinction gods. We
He
haven't seen the
certainly
extinction in so long.
It certainly is tempting them. And the thing is, when the asteroid has both extinction and survival on it, so that's inevitable that is going to come out. But he might. This is a very small scoring tile. He's going to put a piece over there on there. Interesting. You know what he might be looking to do? He might be looking to create an edge tile where he can make a tectonic play off of it if he's still interested in. But he's still got struggling for survival. I'm not.
So on the board right now, we can now see it a little bit better. We don't have bountiful habitat. We have cladogenesis, and then we also have habitat. The cladogenesis is in number 4, and then habitat is in number 5. So he's looking at habitat right now, which is remove one element from Earth that matches a special pawn you don't control. Take one element from the drawbag that matches a special pawn you do control and place it on Earth.
And which did you say was in 4? Was it?
And then cladogenesis is in 4. Resolve the top card of the discard pile, then resolve and discard the face-up card occupying the lowest numbered slot other than this one.
I gotta do my second move.
So if he uses cladogenesis,
And scoring 2.
he'd get to discard solar radiation
Disease.
and activate something in the discard pile as well.
That's right.
The last thing that was played.
Oh, yeah, the famous thing.
Cladogenesis, a huge tempo card.
All I can do.
I have to reclaim because everyone after me is blocked.
the fishes are blocked from being able to do anything.
All right, so I can move 5.
And we saw, even though he evolved in sand, he was not thriving in the sand, I believe.
Right.
Well, he was thriving in one sand, but
Well,
he
he
didn't
was
have majority.
in the sand that he was on.
Yeah.
Right, that they originally scored.
I really like cladogenesis. If you can time it out.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is a. He's trying to get his pieces in a better spot. And he's trying to go head to head with the crustaceans as well.
I'll move it all over here. So that's 5. That's
Well, that's the danger, I think, of the crabs being so far ahead, is that they are now the target for everyone, and because they don't win ties, everyone can spread out and just deny them any end game points.
That snail is not me. Alright. Zoom in.
And finally, we get a reseeding event as the reptiles collect 7 pawns back into their area.
Reseeding. Move all those from Earth that are surrounded by exactly 3 reptiles.
No such thing.
Form the regression action. I believe no one has the sponge. The sponge report. Slide all the elements in the adaptation box down. There are none. Put all elements in depletion, speciation, depletion, and yes, there we go. No longer less.
Now we go into that reseeding again. You can see everything sliding down into the autotrophs area and the depletion area. And the autotrophs area, we haven't really talked about that action much because it hasn't been necessary. Really, you can swap or remove elements around those tectonic tiles. But considering there's no elements around those tectonic tiles, no one's needed to go there.
Starting with buttons. 4 straight out. 1 adaptation and then order. 2, 3, 4, speciation 1 and 2.
We see with the reseeding how that changes the structure of the game and how the speciation now you can only populate on certain spots, and those spots are going to be valuable. The same with Wanderlust now getting tiles. If you're going to add a Wanderlust to the board, you can now populate it with an element, whereas you couldn't before. And then seeing where we can have the competition and evolution as well.
Yeah, where the evolution markers come out is going to be very big here. They already got some free waterless. It looks like there's ability to put sponges back on the board here.
Which we might see the reptiles pursue with a land sponge ability.
So everybody agree that the
Yeah,
is
that's
correct?
I like that play. That'd be a nice play here. There's no land scoring coming out here, which is odd. Well, it's not terribly odd, but it is interesting here. So let's see what they take here. We do have that nice kelp scoring.
And we see we want to get those worms onto the board. We might see a domination play soon from the crabs to just increase their point value, because they're going to have to get some points somehow in the end game, and if everyone's focused on blocking them, they got to do it another way. A domination from crabs on the pink worms right now, though, would be pretty huge. We see a quick wanderlust, though.
He's got good position here for the...
Putting that kelp, yeah, just deciding if he wants to put it directly away from everyone, which is what he does, especially it being kelp worth 7 points at the when it's scored.
1, 2, 3.
Choosing to put some plankton on it, which makes sense. Also, hitting the cephalopods where they live, because the camouflage is not beneficial to them, because we have to assume the extinction is going to come up at some point. That's only a matter of time, but he does go in for the camouflage. Might as well. Might as well if he can score that second place.
Just keeping you honest, you know. Remember our agreement.
Did I score 3?
I gave you
You did. Mike scored.
The friendly cephalopods, friends to every species.
So this is the next wanderlust is going to be a land tile. That's for sure.
I think that's a good bet.
All right, I'm gonna dominate sponges.
Okay.
It's a 2, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Dominating this, a quick domination of the sponges.
Stealing the pawn from Isaac.
All right. I'm gonna take the abundance action and put this plankton right there.
Wow, that's a pretty huge play from reptiles to ensure that they can stay surviving.
They stay surviving for a little bit, but he's really risking that piece coming off the board at the next reseed event, placing it in the middle there. But I'm sure he knows that that's the case. He just...
But you have to know that they want to push the tempo of the cards, and now if an extinction comes up, it would be perfect for reptiles, because everything that they're not on, they would get an automatic survival card.
Yeah. Yeah, he would definitely like the asteroid to hit right about now. He can swing that survival card into his favor and try and get himself into a scoring spot.
And I'm just looking at the setup, but perhaps you know, Brian, where is the asteroid card in the deck? Is it at the very bottom, or is it shuffled in?
It's shuffled into the bottom 5.
I'd assume it would be bottom 5.
I don't know exactly where it's at, but it is.
Yeah, into the bottom 5. That's exactly what it is.
But we're getting pretty close to that point here.
So it could be the 5th card, or it could be the bottom card.
Right. So I think there's still maybe 6 left in the deck there. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, the last time they asked, it was 8. And I don't know if cards have been drawn since then. I don't believe they have.
And once that asteroid action is taken, when somebody takes that, that's when the end of the game.
Yeah, triggers.
So.
So when it comes up, it's a game of chicken from there on out.
Indeed.
Which species will call down the asteroid from the heavens with their ultimate species power?
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the game because it always comes up in the 5 slot. So you have to look and say, okay,
One,
right
two,
now,
three, four.
the ocean tiles are the only ones that can grab that 5 slot. And it is a very powerful card. So if you feel like you can handle the rest of the game out, you really want to grab that card because it can swing quite a bit. I have a hard time myself staying away from taking that card when it comes out.
So yeah, we read that one more time.
But we see,
Each tile he occupies, he removes X species.
and finally, solar radiation is off the board.
Equals the slot on
So we'll
this
start here.
Okay, do you want me to remove or do you want to push them to the edge?
side.
You can really.
There goes the alliance.
The cephalop.
Oh,
I mean,
you still picking me?
Tying you guys.
I think I lose this. Well, we can calculate it. I think I
Wow.
would lose this now.
I think it's tied now.
Yeah, it's fine.
the fish is making a huge play. This is the power of that solar radiation. The fishes again put themselves into that really solid spot.
Who does he not like here? This is the telling play right here. So,
Oh!
He's choosing to remove the cephalopods over the crustaceans. That seems.
that's quite a bit of respect for that position. That seems he wants a tiebreaker. He does not have the tiebreaker.
He doesn't have the tiebreaker, so he wants the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
But the reptiles still had it outright in that area. Although the reptiles are not. No, the reptiles will live there because the sun's attached to it. So.
Yeah, and they would still hold the tiebreaker even if they
No,
were
those were not eliminated.
all matched at 1. So
Those were not considered.
Not eliminated.
That's a huge move. That is a huge move from the fish, especially because it locks in those kelp.
I'll check.
We should double check, but I
So
don't
1,
think
2,
so.
3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yep. Nope.
did we just get a what did we just flip a survival tile?
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a tied
This
survival.
doesn't even matter anymore, but it's just insulting. Like
There's at least one in there. It's the ash.
this whole like disease and setting people up to die thing was so clever. It
Yeah.
just didn't matter. It just didn't matter.
Yeah. Nick was talking about his whole plan of setting his fish up to die to get additional victory points and doubling down on his cannibal power, because whenever this card is in play, animals lose 1 victory point whenever one of their endangered species is eliminated. He's trying to set himself up to be a bit endangered to scoop up some points there. And we see the crustaceans have not moved in a while, and both the fishes and the cephalopods have been moving forward towards that first position. Ed felt like he was in a really, really solid position to start, but now I'm starting to see the tide turn towards perhaps the fishes. I think with that move, getting that board presence is very significant, especially being able to lock down all points on the kelp, which are the most important tiles on the board right now. The fishes feel good in that sort of line of fish terror, and then scooping up some points in the sea meadows too. There are a lot of spaces with that one play where they can now capitalize on. Although in competition, I'm not sure which tiles have been drawn over there. It looks like the land, the seamount, and possibly
Coral reef, maybe.
or the sand.
Mm.
So it doesn't seem like the scoring opportunities are really there, unless you pick the bonus space, which you can take 2 tiles.
Right. You take 1 off of any 2 tiles. So normally I'll have to be off the same tile, but here you can take, and they don't have to be ones that you occupy either. I believe. Yeah. Whereas the other competitions you have to
What would be
occupy.
the value of X here?
Yeah.
0.
Oh, 0?
It's 0 from the discard.
Looking ahead of that Cladogenesis, seeing if the Cladogenesis is worthwhile to use the solar radiation's ability.
Let me see something here.
What is a huge setup for the fish is that there's a double kelp scoring tile out there, and now the kelp will score for the full amount. People are going to want to see if they can capitalize on those evolution cards right now, and we're going to see the tempo of the game, I think, maybe increase a bit.
The disease card is also not very good for the reptiles right at this moment as well too. So if somebody decides that they want to ping that off the board.
Yeah, the reptiles will have to choose if they lose a sun or a plankton. Probably they'd choose sun.
4 for orange.
4?
Yeah, 4 points.
That card's
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll trigger habitat. Move one element from Earth that matches a special pawn you don't control.
So see what Mike's going to target right now and who he's going to target. He can remove anything but snails and sponges. That is a pretty...
I think he should be removing a sun here.
Why did you...
What did he remove? Oh,
He removed the worm.
He does not like that sea mount.
Take one element from the drawback that matches a special pawn you do control. So, I guess I'll take snails.
Take a gastric pod and put that out there.
Earth. Ooh. Doesn't have to be where it came from.
That is potential problems for a few pieces.
Interesting.
I mean, someone could still just take the Cladogenesis and reverse that decision entirely. That's the danger of having Cladogenesis out there. I think that we might see the crabs do exactly that.
You might be hoping for an extinction event to come out right now, right off this play. And
Yeah.
he just completely capitalizes on it and catches a few fish and a few crabs. Get eliminated from the board here. Now, but I wonder what he does
Just
with
one fish.
his tectonic tiles here.
Actually, no fish. No fish get removed with that action, I think, because
Oh, right,
plankton.
it's the fish are safe, yeah.
Oh, yeah, slide.
So this is just going right after the crustaceans. Oh, you don't get it.
Comes into play for each vent tile.
Wow.
I started.
We
Same
have
thing.
the extremophiles who just turned up.
1 for brown.
We're scoring each vent tile right now.
1 purple.
Good for the
Orange.
probably halfway decent for the reptiles here.
Hard.
Not a huge windfall, but
I'm going to
Well,
species
4 points here isn't going to hurt too bad.
this guy. So that'll be 2 and 2. Kelp forest.
we see the reptile speciating, trying to get some more board position, and a really solid speciation from the reptiles. You needed to do that to stop the fishes from doubling down on that kelp
Yeah.
evolution space.
Yeah, that's a good play.
Really needed to do that to stop the fish in their tracks. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is not looking good now for the flying crustaceans. Ed having scooped up a bunch of points throughout the early and mid levels of this game, but now his options are severely limited, just also based where he is located in those seamount places. But he might as well score it and try to get those points right now. And we'll probably go for that Cladogenesis reversal play. Maybe targeting the fish if he can.
Top card of the discard pile.
Huh?
No.
No,
Oh, I'm
reading.
sorry. I thought you were reading the. I apologize.
I'm surprised he's not immediately grabbing this Cladogenesis tile because he needs to end the game.
It's gotta be a free one.
That's true.
He needs to end the game. That helps push the tempo forward. He can take the plankton off of that lower kelp area and hope the extinction is drawn, and then just wipe both reptiles. Well, I guess there's still a blue plankton touching one of the kelp.
Resolve the top card of the discard pile.
He's coming around your way of thinking.
That just feels like it's got to be an immediate reversal.
That would be the way to do it.
So this is first and this is second.
Yeah, and he's probably gonna. The danger here is he pushes out that asteroid tile out here almost pretty quickly here. But maybe he's okay with that. Maybe he's okay with where he's at right at the moment.
Well, I think you're seeing the tempo build up for both the fish and the cephalopods, and you've seen the crustaceans' tempo slow down. You just have to hope the asteroid is pulled at this point and just try to end the game quickly and hope that what you've done throughout that early and mid stage is enough.
I think the risk here, though, is he gives accessibility to 3 players to play it before he's going to be able to play it. And he does have a lot of exposed pieces in that center coral tile.
I've got 4. So you two would.
But at least he does get the disease off right now. So.
And he hits the cephalopods and the reptiles with triggering that resolving and discarding disease as well. It's a big wombo combo.
Yeah, he got a lot of his opponents.
I don't know which one he did take off the board.
I got a slide cards.
Slide 2 cards. So
and we'll see which ones.
Technically, yep. There it is.
Alright.
There's the extinction. Oh, he took off that one that was plopped down in the reptiles.
Okay, we'll do that.
I'm surprised because the reptiles don't feel like a threat. I think he should have targeted fish.
Yep. Gone.
We got a lot of tiles coming on. So we got the omnivore card. Looks like it came out.
Purple's good. Blue's good.
Oh no, it wasn't the omnivore card. It was an extinction.
Terrestrial.
Terrestrial. Okay, there we go.
I got the sun.
Oh, yep. I'm okay.
Converge down there.
I think everybody's still. Yep.
Yeah. Ed really being mindful of that survival card, but I think all he's done is given the survival card to the cephalopods.
Yeah, but it's not worth any points right now.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth any points right now. I think he should have been targeting the fish at this point. Yeah,
I think so too. I think he definitely needs to commit to going after the fish from this point forward. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was because the survival card doesn't really matter at this point because you know the end of the game is imminent.
3
cards.
With 3 cards left.
And we know what one of them is.
It just feels like you need to be chipping away at other people's board position because those vents really aren't worth points at the end of the game, right, Brian?
So
they're only 1 point apiece. There is a survival that happens. There's an extinction and a survival that happens at the very end of the game. So it will get triggered 2 more times, the extinction and the survival.
That's true.
Asteroid comes out, but it's just not worth that many points anymore. It's not a.
And the reptiles. Yeah, and the fact that the reptiles were going to be the one who would hold the survival anyway. it doesn't.
Yeah,
It feels like that doesn't matter to me. It feels like he needed to target the fish in a location. Fish are pretty good in terms of board position, but you could have targeted that one kelp at least.
Yeah,
that they're on in the bottom left.
You could have went after that sun tile where he's got the 3 fish are all over that one sun tile here. That's a significant amount of points.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been extinct because the one on the left is still touching the sun, and then the one up top is touching a plankton.
Okay. Maybe. Well,
I would have maybe removed
into that and get himself some presence on those tiles. There's 3 land tiles still here to come out. Somebody's going to bring one of them out.
We see both fish and cephalopods currently at 67 points, and then the Ed with the crabs at 85. They've made up the gap. They're within 18 points, and judging by board position, I think the fish have those 18 points.
I have to agree with you. They just have too much of that kelp forest.
Now it's good that the reptiles have done some of the work for the crabs, because crabs still have their pink. I guess the crabs want to build up to a pink domination and get those pink points up a bit more. But there we go. We see scoring of a kelp tile, and fish are going to score that center kelp tile, giving them 7 points, giving cephalopods 4.
Scoring that kelp.
And giving reptiles 2. The crustaceans are right out of that one.
Beautiful play. Everybody scores. Crustaceans don't.
Yep.
Orange gets 4.
And again, you could have targeted that
And
by
now
removing that
with
plankton.
Solar radiation off the board.
Yeah. You're going to see them shoot up here.
He's going to take omnivore. Yes, that's another good card. Being able to control an element here is this can once again be very bad for the crustaceans if you can find a play where you can put them in a bit of danger.
Yeah, I feel the crustaceans' chance slipping away from them right now. I would have taken that plankton off from the bottom left of the center tile. Then that kelp scoring wouldn't have been able to happen because the fish would have been extinct on that spot. The cephalopods would have been able to score it though too, so it's kind of who do you target. But the fish is the fish have such a significant board presence.
There it is.
There it is. We have the asteroid that has appeared on the board. The end of the game is imminent.
I think we just did an extinction.
I don't think an exchange extinction-wise, and that's
Yeah.
neither of us. So.
The extinction doesn't matter, but
Survival, you got
2.
2. So 2 equals 3 points.
survival, a lovely 3 points.
Game
Just
ends when somebody triggers this card, right?
So when someone gets that card, we continue until the reseed event, and then the game ends.
So anyway, I have to recover.
Can you pass that?
the reseed event could be sooner than we expected, but the reptiles have a lot of maneuverability to extend that reseed event.
Yeah. So
And especially because adaptability is still in play, the bumping of pawns can extend the game for a decent amount of time, even if the asteroid is pulled.
and I think we're looking at an ocean tile for that 5 spot on the evolution track. So really, that's giving first access here to the crustaceans to trigger the end of the game here. So he ends up being in a decent spot to control what can happen coming out of this. What's most likely the coral reef to get blown up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's within. I don't know if it's the crab's best interest to end the game now. I think they wanted to end it, 20 minutes ago. Or to try to trigger the end, right? The fish are going to have to. Well, fish have 2 pawns left, but can bump the special pawns out. Although it doesn't look like there are any special pawns on the board currently.
Well, I think he doesn't really have a lot of choices, really. Someone's going to end the game this round, and the reseed event is probably going to happen pretty quickly. So he probably wants to be the one who's controlling that. It looks like he may want to. He's considering maybe pinging the Wanderlust first, and then
Migrate everything.
He's migrating. He needs to get himself in a better board position and start to take some points away from someone.
So does he try to make a play for the survival? I don't see why he would. I mean, he can't get enough points.
Survival. The survival card is done.
He has to reposition himself into that seagrass meadow, I believe, is what he's got to do here.
Is it even worth it though? The seagrass meadow is only worth 4 points for the victor, and there's 3. Like, he's gone from the seagrass meadow. He needs to target the things that matter, like the coral reef and the kelp.
One there.
Or he's just trying to lock down his seamount position. That group of 3 that are a little shiny on the camera, those are all seamount. This is really area control at its finest.
If it is right now, for sure, he really has to work through this math here. I think part of the problem with his play here is he really is exposing himself pretty bad to the asteroid. If people still feel that he's in the lead, he ends up spreading out here, and then he ends up getting plunked off.
Yeah,
we'll see. And Nick's going next, and Nick can definitely. Does Nick have a piece in the water? I'm not sure if he does or not. Oh, he doesn't. So he does have a. He's going to leave it up to the cephalopods to make a choice.
Yeah, cephalopods could trigger it, and crustaceans could trigger it. This is tough, though.
This is definitely the hardest part about this game is moving your pieces, because it's so complex and it's so easy to not go in the right direction.
Yeah.
You have to account for not just where things are now, but what card's coming up next. It's a make or break decision where he puts his pieces here. He is going to drop in heavy.
He's got to go for those points when he can, and
yeah, I do like
he knows
this,
Nick can just bounce himself out of kelp.
I like this. If he's actually considering putting 5 across into the kelp here, that's good. That does give him a little bit more protection from a very bad asteroid beat.
He's in such a tough position, though, because, okay, fine, you get out of kelp, I'll just trigger the coral reef and get 1 less point, but I still get the max as the fish in the center, so. I really feel for the crabs right now. I'm trying to find, whereas I thought the crabs' victory was assured, I'm trying to find a way for them to have an assured victory. I don't know why they're not investing more into dominating that worm level. That feels like the only play that they can kind of move towards and try to get themselves points in that way, because they're not winning any majority right now.
And he's actually moving away from that spot.
Just to get in the breakdown, Cease's Marine with a table of ticket to ride winners, guitars.
Yes, he wants that.
We hear Brian talking about his dream. His dream of dominant species marine in the semifinals and finals.
Yeah.
And this is also a dangerous play for the crustaceans, because he's moved in to the kelp, which is only supported by the gray gastropods and the blue plankton. And if another extinction happened to turn up,
Well, the end of the game is going to trigger an extinction event, so he has to go through that. So he's got to make one more play to keep those pieces safe.
This is dangerous. This is a really dangerous move. But it's a sort of all or nothing play. Him trying to expand and just scoop up some regions. I think it's a good migration. Like that song, Good Migrations.
So he might be looking at the terrestrial tile. Maybe he can get the terrestrial tile out, and then that will get him to get one more element. Or he may be looking to swap in with adaptability, which you can do as well as swap into the blue. I don't think he's next to too much. He's not really dependent on green right at the moment. So he could. Oh, he can only swap out his sun tile. That's the only fixture on his board. So I don't think that play doesn't feel very good. He's got to be looking at the terrestrial tile. That has to be what he needs to have happen.
Yeah.
1 point, please.
Because even up top, doing an abundance action, because he could fly back to the top if he needed, but there's no real way to.
Oh, this is such a good play here. Such a good play.
And the fish move into the land, and that's huge.
And they've cut off the crabs from really getting in there. He's gonna go for it, but
they're just limping in for some extra points.
I'll use camouflage.
Feeling the hit, maybe trying to scoop up those 2 points and negating the difference.
Is that what is a reef?
You can see the benefit of camouflage happening right now, but
4 for blue, 2 for purple.
there's still going to be
9.
that potential extinction.
Is that it?
No.
Trigger for card now.
And we see the fish with that play too have shot up. Oh, 79 points to 85 to 74.
I think the fish are making their play here.
I think that the crabs' time in the sun is over. I don't see a way for the crabs to have a comeback here with their board position. And I also don't see a way for the cephalopods to make up that area. The cephalopods want to try to get the second place in most spots. And that huge move with the solar radiation.
Close question. I just want to be clear. It says the game ends at the next reseed event, meaning in place of?
More or less.
Okay.
So they both have to trigger the reseed and the card.
So once that card is pulled off the table, as soon as we encounter a reseed event, in other words, all the cubes are moved to the right, then we will, in theory, do a reseed event, although the technicalities of the reseed event are not necessary except for one part of it, the moving of the cube, the thing from the 3 event.
That will happen.
Yeah. Would you like me to tell you the remaining endgame procedures, or
That's all I got.
Okay, so I think
Just clarifying what will happen and when. So if a reseed were to happen before the asteroid is played, then we'd have to wait for a whole other reseed, and this game could go on for a whole long while more. But I imagine this is not the end of the game, not just because I can see the timestamps on this video, but also just because of Isaac's play with the reptiles. Isaac has a lot more things that he wants to do, and he's not going to trigger that reseeding as long as adaptability is still on the board. He will bounce pawns over and over.
Controlling the asteroid tile, though, becomes very, very tempting. Every time it's within range of something you can do, you have to look at saying, I don't want anybody else making that play.
Yeah, it is a huge power. You get to select a tile, eliminate all but one species there, all but one cube there, then eliminate one species on each adjacent tile. So it's a huge explosion to change the board state.
Wow.
regression.
Is this
for
really where he's going here with this?
reptile. I'm sorry, I was gonna cut you off there. It's a wood over there. Thanks, John.
We've got the terrestrial tile played. The fish is wanting to just live in a nice
sorry,
little
this card goes to
volcano.
you now, though.
What does it do in Irish play?
This card display, each animal must eliminate one of its species on every tile that matches a terrain type in the competition section.
So this is
So
invasive
everybody must move
species.
One from the land, and everybody must move one from the mountain.
Land.
Everyone has to remove one from the land. That's just devastating to both the cephalopods
Yeah.
and crustaceans.
It's
Yeah.
good. It's still good for the fish.
Yep. Each animal.
Really good for
One
the
from land and
fish.
one from mountain.
Oh, it's eliminated. Okay, so
All right. Sorry. Which mount did you just do?
I took from this mount.
Okay.
It's each.
So it's one of each of us.
wait, it's mountains there. Oh yeah,
Just those
One of
three.
these
Alright, so
mounts.
So
one-
it should be one of every color.
yeah, one of every
Right.
color.
Okay. Have you taken yours? you
I
said?
took mine.
Okay. So there's an
Why do you
orange,
take two?
and there's a.
One was from the land.
Oh,
So do I take this one off
Yeah.
of mount?
Every mount.
Yeah.
One off of every mount?
Yep.
Every tile that matches.
And then,
And then did you take yours off
you
this
lose
mount
this
yet?
sorry, that was one.
Every
off.
mount.
It's
one
one
off
from
of
every tile that matches.
Okay.
4 points, please.
4
points for
the
blue.
fish.
We
I gave
see
you
4
four.
points
Oh,
for
you
the
got
fish.
5. I gave you 4.
Okay, you got them already.
I think you gave me
You
4
gave
for
him the
grass.
4 for the.
I
scoring.
scored 4 for grass. I didn't score 4 for this.
He's getting 4 for cannibal.
Where is
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not do that. You're right. I did not do that.
Gets another 4, yeah. Now within 2 of the lead, the fish. I mean, if you're the crustaceans, if you're those flying crabs, I think you need to pull the asteroid and you need to blow up the fish as much as possible. But he's moved out from the ocean tile. No, he left one in that ocean tile.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think he's as exposed to the.
He has left one in the ocean tile. I would have expected him to leave, to have moved that one and kept the other one in, but he needed to move the 3 into the reef.
See, this is. I like the fish. The fish are not going to be as devastated by this asteroid. I don't think. You can get to them a little bit, but you're not really going to be able to destroy them here.
Yeah, at this point, the fish are starting to run away with this game. And I don't think the crustaceans can catch them. And even with those points at the end, I mean, reptiles are back at 39 points, so they're basically at 69 points. They're still in last, but they're not as far away as they may seem with their 2 big action markers. Although crustaceans do have that 10-point bonus. That's why I think the crustaceans should have just invested heavily in dominating the worms again, trying to move that up the track, trying to get those points there rather than moving around and before moving their people to try to vie for area control. I think they needed to capitalize on all the worms that they were touching. I mean, they still are, but there's a bit fewer.
You're trying to speciate out his last few pieces here into the board.
And just claiming those seamounts that's going to only benefit the fish. Well, it'll also benefit the cephalopods too. But a huge blow for the crustaceans. It's been almost agonizing to watch the victory being slowly pulled back from Ed's hands over the course of this entire game.
You done?
I'm going to.
There's still a little bit more here though to it, I think. So
We see the reptiles gain that sun back. He's going to try to do those dominate actions to see if he can boost his points up a little bit more. I think that's a bit too little too late at this point for the reptiles.
Target 1 rank. Am I on?
Yes.
Alright. I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm going to target that. He gets 2, I get 1. And then I gotta read this just to see.
Here it comes. Once
Here comes
once
the
it's in your
asteroid.
hand, it's hard not to put it back down.
Yep, I'm gonna play this.
And yeah, he's got to
Then
do
I
it.
am
He's
going
got to wipe out that.
target.
Maybe he
We're
targets.
gonna target this right here.
Yeah, he's got to wipe out the big fish because he knows the fish are hot on his tail.
Who gets to live? 'Cause the first
Reptiles.
one that lives.
It,
1 cube.
it looks like purple's way far down. So
Well, keep in mind he's got 30 points extra, so it's,
yeah, so
it's
30.
very
so
not
that'd be
accurate.
at 69.
I'm here, right? Oh, yeah.
No, you're
yeah.
right here.
69. So
And you're about to make this 24, so.
Don't
Yeah.
let him dock you.
So you're here.
We'll,
be real.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll
The
see.
score is always just a little bit
I've
closer
been-
than
I've
The
been
idea that
playing
you're
catch up
behind
the whole-
with a very purple board is not.
The fish trying to
Each guy can
to become the lady of the
Yeah.
lake can use some silver tongues to
Each?
Yep.
yeah.
get him to convince to
Anyways, we're gonna
But I-
to let the fish live. Like, who's he gonna
I
make
think the
live?
consensus
He's gonna
is
make the
you should
reptiles
live.
live. Let's be real. No matter how much you
It's
talk,
either the
that's the
reptiles or
only
the
play.
cephalopods, but it's certainly not the fish.
It's certainly not the fish. And it's certainly not the cephalopods who just took away both of his seamount locations.
Everything comes off, correct? And
Except for
all but one.
Yep.
then I pick one to put back on.
And once again, we'll start from the north tile and move around clockwise.
And that will
Oh,
give
because
6
it gets
points
control
to the fish, though.
So
Wait, you had- wait.
I took them all off so I can choose.
Yep.
The
I'm pretty
cannibal.
sure I have the weakest position of the board because I'm losing all of this stuff.
39 points.
My understanding is that everyone has the weakest position on the
That's
board.
right.
Yep.
39.
And I really do think I had the weakest position of the board though.
Who got 30?
That's me. Perfect.
No one wants anybody to be the one who survives.
No, that's
on
what I
this,
have on my
Yeah,
victory
but
point
you're
tracker.
This
definitely
play
gonna be
here.
doing this. And,
I got 8 points showing over there with bonuses.
so, but if
I don't think it's enough to catch up.
move that,
I tried to take
The,
his.
the interesting thing about this game, though, is while this
Well, I
decision
don't think
makes
it wouldn't have worked.
is a big decision,
Even if you hadn't killed
the,
him.
the point separation in this game tends to be a
He
lot
defended
more.
very well.
And sometimes you feel after this game's over like you didn't play well because there was a
Yeah,
big
let me
gap
live,
between
man.
you.
You won't
But
regret it.
you probably still did
Well,
play very well, even though
Yeah.
you may have lost by
It's
like
like-
12 or 15 points. The game
Yeah,
just spreads
I'll
itself
let you live
out like
there.
that because that's the way the scoring mechanism happens.
Put these in and then start from the tech.
He does let the cephalopods live.
Well, how many of my things went in there?
5.
I think it was 6 because we were tied on 6 for a long time. People put 3 and then I put another 3 in there.
Oh, we forgot about that, yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Luckily, now we're gonna have a live replay. I am walking by at this moment in time, and we're gonna stop the top-down camera, and then cut ahead to check that it was in fact 6, and they will get 6 points for their death. That cannibal card coming in really clutch and having yielded a lot of points. I think more points than the camouflage. Maybe not more points than the ram feeder because it was instrumental in getting that that other action tile.
Yeah.
But cannibal feeling like it's really come into play, and we're seeing why flight was chosen last, and cannibal was chosen before that.
I mean, it's going to be 5
it
or
is
6
definitely-
points. Why don't we say it's 5? Why don't we score 5?
Cannibal
and then
is
one or
definitely a
two more
strong
points.
card.
Sure. So you go from
There's another trait that's very similar
Yeah,
to Bill too, which I
this
highly
one here.
recommend
This one here.
getting as well too, which is like solitary. If you ever play the game, that one's very good. The ones
I
that
mean,
score
it
you
doesn't
points,
matter. I gotta get
being able to score points throughout the game is very
This
very
one
good.
here.
All right, we're gonna get a review here while we're doing the rest of this.
True, because the top-down camera is
Can't
being
change,
reviewed right
can't
now.
change.
You can't really change a whole lot of
Yeah,
nothing,
yeah.
but
But if you kill blue, he gets a point.
yeah. So we're just gonna. And then
You
we're gonna
kill
go
blue.
up here.
Purple, you see the sigh of purple being wrenched off the board, even
That's
though
what this
they're.
card is don't attack me card. I mean, really all it does.
Yeah.
The Don't Attack Me card in combo with
many
getting everything on the board at the
blue rings
beginning,
center
proving to be a really good combination.
I think we can. If
Yeah,
you
we
want
can
to,
move
we
on.
You can concede.
Oh, but we want to.
How many blue were in the center?
He was right. 6.
6, so one more.
Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
and
it,
then
sir.
what else?
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
My pleasure.
This is
Passed, Brian.
All right, so
My pleasure.
once
Well
we see
done,
this
well
tile,
done.
Then the game ends at the next reseed event instead of the reseed event.
I'm gonna put this card in play.
Yep.
So now, when
So everybody just
the
agrees
game is
it's correct?
reseeded, it is over.
For the viewers at home.
It is correct.
Considering our minor deviation.
Probably about where it was.
Yeah.
So,
We're
am I
real
up?
close to finishing.
No, I mean my turn's gonna be 0 seconds.
All right, there you go.
And we are back in.
Your turn.
Right.
It's probably it'll catch it.
It's running.
Yeah, we're good.
You're good.
I don't know what they're gonna see on YouTube.
Moving to the reseed. Timed out. Now it is entirely in the reptile's hands when this game ends. The reptiles have full control.
And they only have a few pawns left.
Is
And
there
I
an
think they have some more actions that they need to do.
There's our extinction
They have
before
time to
scoring.
do them.
So when the last rounds, form one final extinction event followed by one final survival event. Then we'll score each and every tile in the same process that we did before.
One final extinction with one final survival. Maybe that's what Nick's trying to move in on with that play over in the tectonic vents. He'll try to pull a quick migration and be able to get a bunch of points in the survival. The reptiles feeling fairly out of it. Although the board position has changed, if it ends now, the fish aren't going to get too many points. If any, they'll scoop up some for the seagrass. They'll scoop up that land one, which will be instrumental. And they'll scoop up one kelp. I think you got to end it if you can, but it's all down to the reptiles and convincing the reptiles if they should end it or not. If you're crustaceans, you want it to end. If you're crustaceans, this is the best chance you'll ever have at winning right now.
I agree with you. The problem is I don't think the reptiles feel like they're winning. And since we're not really playing for second place here, it's really just first place or not at all. Here, they really probably going to have...
They've got to extend it. No, that's exactly it.
It's very clear.
The reptiles need to dominate.
Perfect.
So you know what action I like here? There's an interesting action here on the table here that hasn't been played the entirety of the game, and that is the autotropes action here. So you can hurt the fish one more time with an autotropes action.
Yeah.
Because you can take and remove that green tile that he put out there, and you can switch it up with something else, which will deny them. It's not denying them a lot of points. It's going to deny them.
Well, it denies them the ability to move into those places, right? Like if they migrate and expand,
then I think you have to do that. Yeah.
Then you have to do it.
All right.
Yeah. If he tries to get on 3 different tectonic tiles, I think you have to ping that off.
To score grass. I'll score this one.
4-4.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'll pick this card. So I'll get half of my guys back. That guy.
Return half of your eliminated species rounded up to your gene pool with the invasive species. This is a good play, but it remains to be seen if the cephalopods can get those back onto the board in scoring positions. They could, though, if they're able to. They might be able to wrench a few more key positions out of everyone's hands and make up that gap. This is going to come down to the wire. This might be the start of a cephalopod's comeback.
Well, I'm going to take one of my domination actions. I'm going to do the suns. So I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, times 3. 21.
21 would have been 24 if it was left. I think
It might
I
have
think
been.
you wanted to.
It was definitely the right call.
Yeah.
It might have been.
It was
I don't
the
know
right
if it
call.
was enough, but it was gonna make it close. But I don't think it'll be close anymore. But it was a good play.
I think the reptiles are now think they're out of it. They thought they were in if they could have controlled
Which
that
is really,
middle
it's
coral
really cool
reef.
to someone walking by is like, oh, you're fucking losing, right? And
Oh
they're-
yeah,
and
I mean,
they're
I was
wrong.
trying to be real quiet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm letting you guys do your thing, but it's all good. That's how it shakes
Adaptation.
out.
Yeah, trying to do that sneak attack.
Is that right? Goes on my card.
Yeah.
See, this is where I think I would have done a play denial here if I was the crustaceans.
No,
But
he needs that adaptation. He needs to lock in that kelp, because if he's unable to stay in that kelp at that
Okay,
extinction,
yeah.
all of those things he's moved in were for nothing.
That's true. That is true.
And you'll see players they've got to make these clutch plays right now, because the reptiles are going to end it in 2 turns. Or could end it just right now. But I think as the reptiles, you pursue the most points you can. You're not king making in that way.
Yeah.
And
you
you're
might
obviously
just
pushing
go
for it.
wanderlust and I'm out. So this could be everybody's last play here.
Yeah, you could wanderlust into it.
I wonder if Nick's going to
When
make a
was this
play
thing?
here to.
Oh, wait.
It's actually not going to go away.
It happens during reseed,
Yeah,
but
and we're not going to do that. I haven't checked the rules on that.
I wasn't.
I wasn't quite sure because in the original game you're not actually allowed to place it there, but in this game you are. So
I've never played the original.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna switch it.
This is much better.
I've heard that. That's why I've never like sought out
We
a
played
copy.
it ages ago. And,
Just talking about the
First
difference
of all,
between dominant
players
species and dominant species marine. This one's seeming to be the.
I believe that.
it's
Correct.
just
So
I
much would
do
change by
love the
return.
original, and it's definitely worth playing a few times with the playgroup. And the crazy thing about that game is it can actually go up to 6 players, because you can have
Wow.
6 different animals, and it is you got
That would be
arachnids
wild.
and
That seems like way too much. Four feels.
That would be wild.
4
It's
feels any
intense,
more than
though.
4.
Some of us, we like it better.
The difference, but when you play that
I
game,
agree. I actually like the
you're
original.
like with one of your play groups. We got a 6-player play group. What you're saying, instead of us playing 2 medium-sized games, we're just going to play one very long game.
This one versus that
But
one.
you are going to get compensated, I feel like, in your value of your time playing that game, because there's so much
That was part of it.
meat to that
One
game.
was length,
That
one
that
was
I don't like a lot of
weight,
very
one
long
was
games.
weight.
Like I could stay away from Twilight Imperium or something like that. But
The
a dominant species, oh man, it's just meaty.
And then how much
Meaty.
And
Okay.
we see Nick do the wanderlust action
1 point for
to get that land out there,
Here we are.
Oh, he's got a
and doesn't chain it because he wants to keep it away from people who will hurt him.
Right.
And he's also putting down, I'm assuming it's got to be an algae, because that's the only one that he and the reptiles don't share. That would have been. I didn't quite see what was there. We'll see it when he removes his hand.
yeah, and then he can move into this spot. What a strong play.
It is that algae, I think.
Yeah, Nick knows how to close out these games.
Considering we do a extinction first, so no, I'm probably okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
Nick trying to capitalize on those lands, and I think that's the way to do it as the fish.
Very strong, very strong. He's got 2 8-point land tiles all to himself.
The camouflage making a play for it, though.
Yeah, I don't think he can stick.
He can't stick, but he might be trying to do some sneaky swaps.
Oh wow, look at this. And then he's going to get the migration on top of this. Yeah, so he's going to get everything he wants right here. He's going to get spread out across these vent tiles here.
Yeah.
So strong. And now he's locked that play away from the other players. This is just a very good way to finish.
Well, no, because adaptability is still on the board. So he used a special tile, a special action marker to do that, so that can be bumped.
That is true. That is true. Eric stayed on the board for quite a bit.
But anyone who does do Wanderlust won't get to put down a element tile, which at this stage of the game feels very significant. That's a good recovery play by the fish. This is going to come down to the wire. But this move right here, if nobody's able to remove that from the board and takes that denying, it just gives fish the victory.
Five moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pass.
That is very, very strong.
He locks down that survival.
Yeah, I think you have to take the.
Yep.
You now have to take the autotropes action really here, if you can, because you're get. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's like 14 points, or 13 points.
I killed him, would have been even.
Immediately see the mistake I made.
And
So
so
tired.
I know. I didn't get a break between the previous round and this round. I'm very fried.
We hear the players talking. It's been a long day. All these games, when you make it to the finals, it is a long, long day.
Check out Vegas.
Yep.
So I just like haven't adjusted from the East Coast. So I'm still not on this time. So it is.
cephalopods are looking to go
2:30
abundant
in
so
the
that they
morning.
can score the land.
Yeah. I'm from Central Time. So.
Yeah, the same.
Almost. Yep.
So they're passing on the autotropes action. I think this is the wrong play though, because
we chose this.
all the
yeah.
cephalopods are getting out of this is a
3:30 in the morning to
4-point swing on the fish, and the autotropes action is easily a 13-point swing off the fish. Granted, they're getting 8 more points off of the rest of the table.
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think the autotropes matter because I think that's a sea sponge and not an algae.
Is it?
It might be an algae. It's kind of hard to see.
I thought there was one element that.
Oh no, there is. Yeah, I think there's one algae and one sea sponge there.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what it
My turn?
is. So. But because people don't take that action very often in the game, they may not remember that play is there, because it's really just these late game situations where it's can be devastating.
I have to migrate first.
Yeah, so he's going to bounce Wanderlust and out.
He's making the play for the land, but by doing so, that feels like a bad play because the fish have such a dominant position there with 4 to his 3.
What's even worse is he has to commit first.
That's so good. Oh my god.
but he's choosing. He'll get the kelp. He's guaranteed to get a kelp.
It took me a long time to find that spot.
Or get 2 kelp.
Oh man. That is so clever. So if I stay there at 7, if I split, it's 4 and 4.
There's some heavy math going on there.
7, 4, 4.
You can see the respect the players are still giving to the reptiles, even though they were blocked a bit. They know that they're still in the game.
And then you have another turn after this.
I do.
So the game will be.
It will be.
We'll move 1 from here and 1 from here.
Alright, so I get to do this, but there's going to be an extinction.
Yeah, so it'll go away. But you can.
That's a surprising move.
And for my second action, I will retrieve.
Yeah.
So.
Because he cedes some points. Nick was at 14, and in this way, he only gets 12, I think. Doesn't he? Because kelp second position, you get 4 points.
So he's getting 2 seconds on the kelp and 1 first on the land. So
Yeah,
he
so
was at 14, and what is?
Oh, so now he's at 16. Now he's at 16. Yeah. There we go. That's why he did it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I was only adding one of them, but there's 2.
Yes.
It was a good, I think, positive scoring play for the reptiles, but I think that the negative scoring play that the crustaceans mix with the autotrophs, it is probably going to be more crucial here.
So he's on 4.
He has 5 cubes, which is more than anybody else. He's on 4, so I believe that's what 10 points.
So 90 to 100.
Yeah, so he gets 10 points. It's 13 points they're giving to the fish by not hating him out of those points.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's significant. 13 points is very significant, even when you're just trying to make, just a few more
Blue will
points.
score 1 point.
Yeah.
Blue will score 8 points. And purple score 4 points.
4 for purple, so 43.
Purple will score 7 points.
7 to 50.
Blue will score 4 points.
See, yeah.
1 point for blue. Purple will score 7 points.
7.
We see the reptiles shooting up the tracks here, but I don't know. I think the fish have it with their 2 land.
Blue will score 4.
4 to 23.
Purple will score 1 point.
1 for
It looks like the fish will have it,
Will score most points 7.
but
It does.
I think it's going to be
Brown.
pretty
It's a
close.
hard catch.
6 to 93.
Blue will score 4.
4 for blue, 27.
And 2 for orange.
2 for orange.
We see blue at 127 right now.
Brown scores most 6.
93 to 99.
Purple will score 3.
3 for purple.
Orange will score 2. Orange will score 1. Purple scores 4.
4 to 65.
2 for blue.
2 to 29.
129 for blue.
29 to 30.
133 for blue.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
Orange gets 6.
Yeah,
It
they
just
still-
doesn't look like there's enough spaces left on the board, but the cephalopods could make a comeback with their board positions. I think crustaceans are right out.
Well, he's not going to score the special pawn points too. Don't forget about those.
Right.
Those keep it fairly tight.
Blue scores next, which is 3.
73.
Followed by blue, which is 2.
35.
Orange will score 4.
4 for blue.
103.
Purple will score 4.
4 for purple, so 77.
7.
Brown will score 2.
2 to 6.
Orange will score most.
5 for
5.
orange, to 108.
108 for cephalopods.
35 to 38.
Purple with 2.
Yeah.
30 points behind the fish right now.
Brown gets 2. 2 points for orange.
Going to be a little tight.
Orange will score 5.
That last land tile there. Going to be very good.
3.
Yeah, that last land tile was clutch.
Followed by blue with 2.
40.
And just that one had to be removed from everyone.
Followed by brown with 3.
It's definitely not going to be enough for reptiles to come back into it with their pawns.
And finally blue with 8.
50.
We'll start with this tile here. Who owns the
That's
sun?
huge.
Sun.
Score yourself 21 points.
So even though I think the autotrope play was the right play, it still wasn't going to be enough to catch the fish. It doesn't
Yeah.
appear.
The fish are so far ahead, I don't think any of these bonuses are going to matter.
So 15.
15 points.
That'll be it.
We see the final score of crustaceans just
Purple.
falling short.
Stations for 10.
Scored 10 points.
And then finally, the cephalopods, no one going to be able to round that corner.
Score 4 points.
The fish
4 more for yellow.
seeming to be, if I could say it one last time, dominating the score track as the dominant species.
You guys picked it.
The
Nick
fish will be
Henning.
everywhere.
This is a third.
Nick Henning will not be sleeping with the fishes, but will be riding them to
Oh, so what's the
victory.
price for second place?
Yeah.
Well done. His,
You get
well
down
done.
to
His
second
migration
place.
plays were really,
So
really
first place,
good.
Can I have the scores, please?
Is
Yeah.
First place,
a lot. There's so many very good plays by Nick to put himself in a position to win that game. Not just
Yeah.
the early play of getting his pieces on the board, but how he played after that was what I think really made the difference.
It didn't make a difference.
Just
but once
really
you start
capitalizing
there
on
versus
those
the
good,
first
strong
one,
top positions and
Because
just
I
closing
have
out the
food
very
here,
end of the
I can
game.
eat those.
uh,
He in the last few plays of the game, he easily got 30 or 40 points from his plays towards the very end of the game there. And
Yeah.
those sorts of things
So
can make the difference between winning and losing.
Point for that.
For what?
Placing that.
Oh, for placing that
land.
land?
Yeah, and also the very first one, unless you didn't get a point for it either. 128. I thought you probably
Would it have mattered? It would not. Okay.
No.
I was fucked.
They're just checking the scores and seeing what would have mattered, what not.
Yeah, so
And then next is Ed Rickman.
Wrapping up the scores. So there we have it, the final of Dominant Species Marine. What a game. What a wild game to watch. There were many, many highs and lows, starting off with that amazingly risky play by Nick with the fishes, who could have wiped out his entire stack had the cards not fallen in their favor. But there was hardly any extinction that happened throughout the game, and
incredible.
That was wild to watch. That feels like a very different game than you would see, but you can see the differences that will happen as you play through this game. Fun game, Brian. I can see why you like it as much as you do.
Indeed, you can see why it would have been a very interesting final for the very final game. Why I was pulling for that so heavily.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's a fairly easy game to get the hang of, at least mechanically, but then there's just so many parts to keep track of, and the abundance of actions that you do have is something that you really have to wrap your head around.
Indeed. Well, I hope all you people enjoy playing a game of Dominant Species Marine when you get it to the table for yourselves, and I hope you've all enjoyed this video.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching it. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in to the World Series of Board Gaming. Congratulations to Nick Henning being crowned World Series of Board Gaming 2022's Dominant Species Marine champion, maybe the only Dominant Species Marine champion from the World Series, because Dominant Species Marine is not in the competition next year. It has been replaced by 4 different games. There's always going to be this sort of cycle. If you want information on those, make sure to check out the website. Get your tickets for 2023. If you're looking at the board thinking, oh, yeah, I could win myself a beautiful ring, well, show up in Vegas and we will see you there. Anyway, from us at World Series of Board Gaming, I'm Chris George.
And I'm Brian Muller.
And thanks for watching. Go watch another ring final. They're awesome. We'll see you next time.